Okay, so this is part 2. Yes, there's going to be many parts, like I said, because there's many videos to share, but they're all the same energy. So, not all the same, obviously, but some of them are for us to take a pause, bear witness, okay, assess the situation, and digest it together through tarot, okay? So, let's see how we do. Okay, so these are the first cards that came out. This is the Evil Eye deck. Usually I tap into and I see, okay, the images usually sometimes can give me indications, like it gives me some type of information. Yeah, so a lot of us, we think like, okay, so we use our imagination. Yes, it's beyond. Imagination is beyond. And this is something that a lot of colonizers and the people who will do what I just showed you, the atrocities and the horrible things that you just, witness, but also educated yourself, are aware. Make sure that you are tapping into those peoples, okay? They are in this video and on the other video as well. I forgot to say that. Please, if Father God or your intuition, like it could be like this little tingling sensation that it says like, man, I want to share that in my community so that people are aware. Follow that. That's it. Just follow that, okay? If you feel like that's the energy. I know a lot of people think that sharing content and talking about this is kind of like, oh, but what will we do that, But the thing is, we have to, okay? We do have it's a trillion, okay? It's a trillion invested in terms of media propaganda to fool you, to make you complicit also, and also to, it's kind of like it's like an illusion, right? Because they're trying to remove the karmic debt that they have, because murdering and killing is not... is the worst karma, right? Is the worst, and they're aware of this, right? They're trying to not take accountability, like the usual abusers, narcissists, and sadists do, right? They're trying not to take accountability, and through capitalism, they are able to pass their negative energy and karma to all of us, and make us pay for it. So that negative karma, that poverty, that homelessness, all that stuff that a lot of y'all, you think that is just happens to you. Oh, it's just life. It's not just life. Do not let them have that. It's not life. They're doing it to you. You know that, right? Through everything. Media, education, business, rental, institution, corporations, whatever. Everywhere. Right? Let's be clear. If you not that understand me too much, it's beautiful to check my website, writersdip.com. I do have a section that says bookshelf, and you can click that, and it's going to have a bunch of books, okay, of decolonization, so that you can understand where I'm at, okay? And I understand that a lot of people is like, oh, but that, it does. It takes a process. Just like me, I take a process. I take a pause to analyze and understand my energy and other people's energy. It's a work, right? It's a alchemizing and transmuting is a work, okay? And it's harder to explain because not a lot of us have this gift, but it's time for me to share it, because why not? And stop having this fear that sharing this gift with you, that it also, you guys, thank you so much for your emails, your beautiful energy, your comments and stuff like that, of encouragement and stuff. It's really nice. Thank you. It does help, and encourages me to continue doing it as well, So just like I encourage you and inspire you, and you guys go ahead and educate and do the right thing, because I know my people are boycotting. And also, yeah, we're doing this for the children, right? Because at the end of the day, not just the children, the moms, the elderly, the disabled, this is insane that we have all the resources. We have everything that we need to help those people. And it's just because 1% of people that I don't know what's going on in their head, because not only that, they have the power. Just like we said, oh, but Biden and everybody in the presidency can have the power to just call and tell, stop the war in Middle East, right? No, actually, he doesn't have that kind of power. It's actually the billionaires who does. That time where, that president that, see, they don't want me to tell you guys that. They have control. Maybe in the past they didn't have that control, but right now they do. They have access to everything. So, breathe. Another thing, just a healing practice. Never tell an oppressed person to just accept an oppressor, or someone who's hurting them, or someone who's abusing them, or someone who's not treating them properly, or they're not treating them how they deserve, right? Or they're not paid fairly, or, you know, like, do little things, like the right things, okay? And stop complaining so much about, like, oh, but why can I hear God and stuff like that? Like, he's always in your heart, but if your heart is not in the right space, like a lot of you know that story with Anubis, I'm seeing it's like a weight thing, right? So you have the heart and you have a feather. So your heart has to be lighter like a feather, right? And Father God keeps telling me that the feather was actually was a long time indigenous story, but I'll share that in another time. But for now, he said that your heart has to be lighter as a feather, okay? So when we say lighter as a feather, it does not mean like that heart is the highest vibration, makes it lighter. It makes the heart lighter, which makes it more sensitive, more vulnerable, you know, and also that too is empathetic, right? So having a light heart is empathetic. So why do we have a system that is the opposite of that when we are not wired like that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotcha. Right? Yeah. You got it, right? This is what they're afraid of you to understand. Please like the video. Thank you. Yeah, okay. So hopefully I get through and I'm able to pass through. Because that was pretty good. Anyways, so let's tap in, okay? So the first message that I'm supposed to share, I think it was, I told you guys the two of the lovers. Yeah, so it's like a bond energy. All right, so first of all, before I start and get into the deep end, the vibe is being clear, okay? So this is what's gonna annoy the oppressors, right? And it's gonna annoy the karmics. It's gonna annoy a lot of people, especially like people who are like betting or gambling or something like that, or like still like obsessed with like fucking money and stuff and doing shitty things to people to like fuck them up and stuff like that, like, right? Like free spell. Like, do you know that when this backfired, which by the way it did, so this is a warning also for the people who do this, okay, either to me, to anybody in my community and stuff like that. Like, this is what they hate, that we expose them through tarot, okay? I'm gonna shuffle my own thing to confirm each of them, but I just want to show you, okay? But yeah, free spell. Someone wants to stop any progress on your way to success. So when I'm talking about the free spell, this to be created, it has to have a major intense power. So to explain that better, I have two people that, because I was telling God, like, how can I explain this? I don't know how to explain, like, you know, see, because, or not only that, is that I have also, it's like, you know, right? People doing also to me and to other people and stuff like that. So it's not just me, it's all of us, especially all of us who are in, I feel like in the Black community as well. And there's indigenous as well. This has been done. And the massacres like multiply, okay? And let me show you why.
Are trying to bury with any possible means. The controversy is bringing forward justice in a world that remains profoundly unjust. And while the Canadian government has not taken the opportunity to receive me these days, I'm glad that the traditional custodians of this land are gathering from across the country to discuss the interconnectedness of their struggle, with what the Palestinians are enduring. And it is not the first time, because in the United States I had the honor and privilege to be welcomed beautifully and hauntingly by a member of the Piscataway nation. And I was received with similar welcome in Australia last year. I see in these meaningful connections the way forward in recognizing and halting historical and ongoing injustices. It is indicative of the precipice we find ourselves at as a global community. The international system and its integrity faces collapse. It is us in the West who have most benefited from the peace and stability that the United Nations system has brought. And it is us who will miss it the most. We do, however, face a choice. This is why I urge us all to embrace the knowledge of our collective past, however uncomfortable, and confront its legacy and struggle both on this land and in Palestine. While history will judge us, justice cannot wait. We need everything in our power to halt ongoing atrocities, preserve what has not been destroyed, and reconstruct what is being destroyed. Which brings me to my two most recent reports. Anatomy of a Genocide, which I presented in March this year to the Human Rights Council, and Genocide as Colonial Erasure, presented last week to the General Assembly. Two pieces of work where I strive to shed light on what the Palestinians have had to endure this past year and the way in which it is built upon decades of struggle to exist under unlawful occupation and apartheid. Why do I speak of genocide? This year, I've been forced to become a chronicler of genocide. While the denialism and obscurantism has reached unprecedented levels, an impunity that has obscured, muted, and sacrificed the plight of the Palestinians on the altar of political convenience for decades, has crescendoed into this catastrophe. Framed as a conduct that might constitute war crimes or at best crimes against humanity, is to reflect no more than what Palestinians have always experienced. The failure to recognize now what is genocide means a failure to understand the scale of the crime being inflicted upon them, and to understand the urgent trajectory of Israeli conduct and the serious risk of erasure that the Palestinians face in their homeland, or what remains of it. Genocide is a crime of a particular kind and gravity. What distinguishes it from other international crimes is the special intent, the mens rea, the targeting of a group to destroy it as a group, as such. When assessing intent, especially state intent, we must remember that genocide is a process, not a single act, and includes a plurality of acts and actors. So the key is the singular thread of intent that runs through the collective conduct and the plurality of acts. In March 2024, I concluded already, after 5 months of violent assault, unprecedented assault on Gaza, that there were that there were reasonable grounds to believe that Israel had committed at least 3 acts of genocide: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part. I've not been the only voice denouncing it. Already by November 2023, 30 independent UN experts had raised the alarm at least 3 times that the genocide was unfolding. By January 2024, the International Court of Justice had identified a plausible risk of irreparable harm to Palestinian rights under the Genocide Convention, and therefore issued provisional measures to stop it. New provisional measures were issued in March and in May. Israeli genocide scholars and experts of genocide in their own domains have issued similar warnings, among them Professors Raz Sigal, Amos Goldberg, and Omar Bartov. Confronted with this deliberate human-made catastrophe, the discussion regarding the possibility of Israel having committed acts of genocide remains astonishingly a contested one, particularly in the West. Obscured, overly technical and reductive reasoning, some regard important but still developing genocide jurisprudence as rendering impossible to affix the label to what is now happening and to ensure the firm application of the Genocide Convention, which is first and foremost to prevent genocide, and then to stop it, and then to punish it. This is what in my role as Special Rapporteur I felt duty-bound to address, lest the possibility of future accountability be denied to the Palestinian people again. So my second report takes a step back to illuminate the broader context, to urge all those trying to understand the gravity of this crime not to miss the forest for the trees. My report assesses Israel's intent to destroy the Palestinian people holistically through a triple lens approach, considering the totality of Israeli conduct and crimes against the totality of the Palestinian people as such, across the totality of the Palestinian territory that Israel unlawfully occupies. In Gaza, we are all forced to watch as Israel's constant bombing, sniper and artillery fire continues to spare no one: journalists, students, scholars, doctors, nurses, persons with disability, people seeking food and safety, or humanitarian workers. Conservative figures indicated that Israel's assault on Gaza over the last almost 13 months has killed, injured, maimed, or buried alive under the rubble at least 155,000 Palestinians. Entire family lines have been exterminated. 700 babies among 17,000 children massacred. Gaza is now a wasteland of rubble, garbage, and human remains, where survivors hold on to life amid widespread deprivation and disease. The Palestinians trapped there have experienced a level of violence not seen anywhere in this century. They have nothing to return to, and it is all by design. And still, Israel intensifies its onslaught. This violence is not confined to Gaza. It's metastasizing quickly to the West Bank, where clear patterns are replicating from Gaza. Since October 7 last year, the rate at which Palestinians have been killed has increased tenfold on the previous 20-year average, including over 700 Palestinians and 169 children. A fifth of all children Israel has executed since the year 2000, when the United Nations started counting how many people were killed. Palestinian academics, human rights defenders, doctors, scholars, children have been arbitrarily swept up and incarcerated in a campaign of mass arrest, now facing deprivation, torture, in squalid conditions, without charge, without trial. Thousands have been displaced in the largest land grab in 30 years. This destruction is what settler colonial genocide looks like. The destruction is physical and biological devastation of the group in order to take control of the land. And this is the critical point we cannot miss. Land is central to understanding the intent that drives Israel's genocide. An inherent conflict that exists between Israel, who seeks to acquire the land that is its own by divine design, and the Palestinians, for whom the land is integral to their existence. We must step outside our Western understanding of land, place, and property, because for the Palestinians, as for any indigenous people, the land is not the place where they live. The land is who they are. And as Leanne Betasamosake Simpson says of this land, the connection of Nishan-Beg bodies and minds and spirits to each other, to the practices associated knowledges that connect First Nations to the land, is their power. This is what orients the settler colonial states towards a need to eliminate the indigenous. This is why the displacement, the dispossession, the cultural destruction, and the devastation of food sovereignty and everything else, which might constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity, certainly, on their own accord, are also to be seen as an intent to sever the cultural belonging and connection of the Palestinians to the land. These acts are corrosive to the human and psychological spirit, as too many indigenous people can attest to today. Hence, they are genocidal. Despite the magnitude of what we are all bearing witness to, astoundingly a minority of powerful member states, rather than halting its momentum, have provided military, economic and political support to Israel as it was committing atrocities, compounding the devastation it has wrought. And this is why I go back to the colonial amnesia of the West, because it's upon it that it has condoned Israel's settler colonial project, pretending not to see it. And its ongoing genocide is without a doubt the consequence of the exceptional status of impunity that has been afforded to Israel. In a year in which the International Court of Justice has issued a watershed advisory opinion, thank you, Arti, because he's been we need to have an idea of how much of the scholarship and the commitment of this professor has gone into forming this advisory opinion. So, thank you, Antti. However, in the year in which the International Court of Justice has issued a watershed advisory opinion in July this year, declaring the unlawfulness of the occupation in its entirety and ordering this occupation be dismantled totally and unconditionally as rapidly as possible. And the General Assembly has already established what it means as rapidly as possible by September next year. And in the year in which the same court has indicated no less than 3 sets of provisional measures concerning the serious risk of genocide and even ordering cessation of hostilities. Canada has a clear obligation under international law toward the Palestinian people. End the genocide now, help support to end the occupation by September next year, and then work to end apartheid from the river to the sea. Concrete steps must be taken. Humanitarian organizations must be supported and allowed to do the urgent work without unnecessary scrutiny. Arms export licenses must be cancelled, all of them. Transparency on third state indirect transfers is an imperative. The free trade agreement that Canada has with Israel should be under urgent review. The United Nations should be supported and protected from the unprecedented assault Israel has unleashed against the organization in all its manifestations, in the occupied Palestinian territory, in New York, in The Hague, everywhere. Palestinian displaced during the genocide and all genocide survivors must be given proper and urgent protection. Canadian citizens surviving in the Canadian citizens serving in the Israeli army or settlers living in occupied territory, those selling Palestinian land from the comfort of their homes and offices in Montreal and Toronto must be held accountable for their possible crimes. Must companies that are profiting from the unlawful occupation and this genocide, including banks and pension funds, they must
As the Kamala Harris campaign gets thrown into the dustbin of history, I think we should take a moment to appreciate and recap what the Democrats accomplished in 2024. First, they went into a presidential campaign with no primaries, locked into an unpopular man who wanted to be president until he was 86 and was already showing clear signs of cognitive decline. When he gave the most disastrous debate performance of all time, barely being able to finish a thought sometimes, the ticket fell to a woman who had already tried to become president in 2020, but failed so badly that her campaign ended before 2020 even began. They then did the thing that basically never works for any party supposedly left of center ever, unless your opponents are collapsing. They shift to the right in the hopes of attracting voters that already have a party to vote for in that direction if they want to. Sprinkled with outbursts where they call the people that they're trying to attract garbage, of course. And this is all before you get to the elephant in the room, the fact that this party is actively enabling a genocide for the past year. Let's be clear. Without the support of the Democratic Party, Israel would not be perpetrating a genocide against Palestinians and demolishing whole villages and neighborhoods in Lebanon right now. They gave the man implementing the genocide 58 standing ovations in Congress. And they made it very clear that the bombs would just keep on coming under a Harris presidency. And when people, enraged, protested the mass slaughter of children and often their own families, their response was mockery.
Mock them again. Mock the children again. Do it again. Do it again.
18 years out!
Gaslighting.
And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza.
And so you think Donald Trump will be better? We're in for a disastrous 4 extra years under Donald Trump for women, for people of color and LGBTQ plus people in the US, for Palestinians and so many others around the world, for the planet and for future generations. And we have Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the Democratic Party to thank for it.
The people who need to hear this most probably won't even watch this whole video. This is fightable. People talk about Project 2025 like it's this thing that is inevitable and something that we can't fight, but you can fight. You don't have to take that shit. A lot of people really like to demonize the Palestinians and the protesters and the organizers and the people that have been fighting for over a year now to stop this genocide. But it is those people that you need to actually look up to right now, because they know how to fight. They know how to organize. Palestinians are some of the most resilient people on earth. And if there's anyone that can teach us how to withstand awful things and awful trauma, it is the Palestinian movement and the people organizing that movement and the people who are consistently getting up day after day after literally losing countless members of their families. Those are the people that should inspire us right now. Those are the people that we need to look to right now, because they are going to help us get out of this. If you want to learn what real organizing looks like, what real community building looks like, what looking after each other looks like, look to the Palestinian activists in your community. Follow their lead. They will show you exactly what needs to get done to be able to make it through the next 4 fucking years.
Solution. The Foreign Affairs Committee here is studying what they call the quickest path to recognize a Palestinian state by the government of Canada. Do you think that is a useful exercise?
I beg your pardon, but I'm not comfortable with language like useful exercise, where there is an imagining government officials or parliamentarians entertaining themselves in useful exercise when there is a genocide ongoing. The priority is to stop the genocide. If the government here, the parliamentarians want to call it ceasefire, call it pear and apple, call it the way you want, but this is the priority. The rest is secondary, which doesn't mean that the recognition of the state of Palestine is not important. My question is, if this country has entertained the discussions on the two-state solution, how come it has not recognized the state of Palestine yet? What is to be debated? So again, recognition of the state of Palestine shouldn't take time, should be automatic, should be an act of coherence. Otherwise, if you don't recognize it, it means that you shouldn't be talking about that at all. Why are you even a voice in the debate? It's about coherence. I know that what I'm saying is blunt, but we need to be blunt because the impunity that has been granted to Israel for decades has led to this, which is a disaster both for the Palestinians and the Israelis. And again, diplomatic talks has been turned into a place to justify the unimaginable, the illegal. So, yes, the state of Palestine should be recognized. Let's move on. But the point, the question is not that. The question is self-determination. Even if you recognize the state of Palestine and it's merely a perfunctory act, what do you do to realize the right of self-determination of the Palestinians? Is Canada spending any of its political capital to make sure that the genocide ends as soon as possible, the ceasefire, whatever? But then there is already a deadline set for the end of the occupation. The ICJ has passed an advisory opinion which declares the occupation unlawful and to be dismantled unconditionally and totally as rapidly as possible. And that as rapid as possible has been defined by the General Assembly. It must happen by September next year. What is Canada doing to ensure that the occupation is dismantled? And then, more than this, there is apartheid. I know that in this country you feel uncomfortable with the word apartheid, but you have to tell me why. Because I, together with Israeli human rights organizations, Palestinian human rights organizations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Harvard University, and thousands of Israelis talk about apartheid and give you the evidence of it. And here, like in other parts in North America, I hear, we cannot say that.
Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist?
Israel does exist. Israel is a recognized member of the United Nations. Besides this, there is not such a thing in international law like a right of a state to exist. Does Italy has a right to exist? Italy exists. Now, if tomorrow Italy and France want to merge and become Ita-France, fine. This is not up to us. What is enshrined in international law is the right of a people to exist. So the state is there, the state of Israel is there, is protected as a member of the United Nations. Does this justify the erasure of another people? Hell no. Not 75 years ago, not 57 years ago, surely not today. Where is the protection of the Palestinian people from erasure, from annexation, from illegal occupation and apartheid? This is what we need to discuss.
If I showed up on your For You page, just likely because we're worried about the same things. So I'm going to give you some tips as a cybersecurity professional. I may not know everything, but these are useful things to keep in mind. Mutual aid and direct action needs to be performed on end-to-end encryption messaging platforms. Anyone you know who is interested in maintaining safety of people should be downloading Signal. And turn off notification previews, as it was confirmed last year that the government is receiving notification preview information unencrypted from both Apple and Google. Ladies, I need you to delete all period tracking data apps you have, and if you still have any of them installed, start flooding it with false information. See if you could retroactively change the history before you delete your accounts. Stop making this information accessible, and delete any posts that may reference the exact day you had an event. A lot of you also may be new to this, so I'm briefly going to explain the difference between de facto and de jure. De jure means in law. De facto means in effect. As in when segregation was outlawed, it was de jure institutionalized together. De facto segregation still continued. This is something that you'll likely see the effects of as more stringent and damaging laws come into fruition. The important thing to understand is mutual aid groups focus on material change, which means de facto effects of these things are going to be more important. If you cannot read between the lines as to why I'm telling you to use encryption platform and why I'm bringing up de facto and de jure, ask someone on an encrypted platform why. They will understand and explain it. I can't here. You will find yourself fitting in different layers across this movement. Some of you may want to offer the olive branch and the understanding to our oppressor to help them understand, and that is important and may win us people in this. Others, more like myself, find it difficult to have conversations with the oppressor about why they should care about the oppressed. It is important that we do not harm each other in that effort. Their importance of offering the olive branch should not be mutually exclusive with our effort to hold our oppressor accountable. This is the biggest problem we have with unification, is we find ourselves at odds often with each other when we're all trying to go the same direction. You can disagree with how we implement radical ideas at different layers across the board, but the goal is to not be mutually exclusive and combat each other. We need our Kwame Tures and our James Baldwins as much as we need our MLKs. This is how movements in countries like Korea and Japan happened with the 4B movement, when the law itself was not franchising these people, specifically women. They started to act socially and act upon it themselves. These are the kinds of movements that will have the most effect in the current and future times that are upcoming here in the United States. I'd say God help us all, but that retracts from the whole point of saying you and I are the ones who need to help each other.
Y'all are about to be sick as fuck when Donald Trump gets elected because Kamala Harris thought as a black woman she could out-Republican a white man.
I did not want to be right about this, but honestly, the signs were there from the beginning, and all I can say is... Before you try to blame third-party voters, you could literally take all of them, including RFK, Jill Stein, Claudia De La Cruz, and put them in a pot, give them to Kamala Harris, and she still would have got mobbed by over 2 million votes. Only people to blame are liberals and Democrats who refuse to be critical of the poor DNC campaigning strategy from the jump. Every day people were being open and honest about how unpopular she was becoming due to her policy, but no one wanted to listen. When everyone said, hey, Joe Biden isn't fit to run, they ignored us until the last moment. Despite the fact that in 2023, 58% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning voters made it very clear that they wanted another candidate. They overrid any resemblance of a primary election, implementing Kamala Harris as the next running president without giving her any kind of campaigning policy. Like, she really tried to run an entire campaign on identity politics and fucking vibes. When people said, hey, she's gonna need policy, people gaslit them into thinking that it was gonna work. Even though she went her first few months of campaigning without any kind of policy on her website. And then straight copy and pasted Joe Biden's very unpopular policy. When people said, hey, genocide is very unpopular, you gaslit us into thinking it was gonna work. She tried to run on the fear of Trump while simultaneously co-opting all of his 2016 talking points. And y'all acting surprised that Kamala Harris was more interested in upholding white supremacy than actually winning the fucking election. And the most upsetting part is for the entire election season, people were saying, oh, you think you're morally superior for not wanting to vote for her, and now look at you. You have made it clear to the establishment that genocide is not a red line for you and still managed to fucking lose. Everyday people came out and said that the most pressing issue for them this election season was the economy. She doubled down on sending trillions of dollars to Israel, despite the fact that the majority of her constituents wanted absolutely nothing to do with the genocide. During the height of some of the largest anti-war protests since Vietnam, she decided to bring out fucking war criminals on the campaigning trail. Again, I never wanted to be right about this, but at this point, it's just pattern recognition.
Love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free. The world is held together, really it is held together, by the love and the passion of very few people. Otherwise, of course, you can despair. Walk down the street of any city, any afternoon, and look around you. What you got to remember is what you're looking at is also you. Everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop. And you have to decide in yourself not to be.
Now in America, the President, the Senate, the House, the Supreme Court will be all Republican, the same party. And this has also happened in Poland. So let me give you some examples of what you're in for. Between 2015 and 2023, the ruling party of Poland was PiS. They won the majority and they could do with the country whatever they wanted. One of the biggest things they did was a nearly all ban on abortion. 99% of abortions are banned in Poland. Women are not allowed to take abortions. Any doctor that helps women get an abortion will go to jail if found that they were helping them. So women now have to travel outside of Poland to do these procedures, and if they were found to do that, then again they would go to jail. You are not allowed to get an abortion even if it threatens the mother's life, and there was actually a famous case of when a woman died because she had to give birth to a stillborn. There were actually massive protests in Poland to protest this law all women went out on the streets wearing black. It was dubbed as a Black Monday, which is basically when women wore black and they refused to go to work, they refused to go to school to protest this law. But despite all this turnout, they still did it. Here is another example. Women went out on the streets in more than 147 cities across Poland, and yet the ruling party still banned abortions. The second thing they did was basically introduce LGBT-free zones because they hated gay people so much. Aside from our president saying gay people are not people, they are an ideology, this is what happened. LGBT-free zones were created and implemented by local provinces, counties, and municipalities. Over 90 municipalities declared an LGBT-free zone. Around half of the country was an LGBT-free zone. And here is the proof. This is what the map looked like. All these red places declared themselves as LGBT-free zones. In the EU, we have this thing where cities partner with other cities in other countries to be like sibling cities. And because of this, so many cities cut ties with Poland. Because of this, the European Commission blocked 150 million euro funds for LGBT-free zones and blocked a 42 billion euro payment from the COVID recovery fund. Of course, America is not part of the EU, therefore they will not have any repercussions if they make any laws like this, therefore they will be fearless. On top of this, newspapers gave out these lovely stickers which businesses could use to declare themselves as an LGBT-free zone. Now, what the ruling party did to achieve this was basically change the judicial system. They made it so that the court was selected by the party and the president so that there will be no blockage of any laws that they wanted to make. This meant that the judges were basically pawns in their game and they could pass any law that they wanted. After eliminating constitutional checks, the government then moved to curtail the activities of NGOs and independent media, restrict freedom of speech and assembly, and reduce the qualifications required for civil service jobs in order to fill these positions with party loyalists. There is always a lot of corruption and embezzlement going on in governments, but with this law, it meant that anyone from the party found guilty of any of this would just be set free. Because again, the judges were selected by the political party, which meant that they would never be found guilty of any of it. This was obviously huge during COVID because a lot of money they took for themselves. They got fake PPE, which actually were not even real companies, all of that stuff. Reason why they were in power for so long is because they wanted to brainwash even more people, so they took over the main TV channels. Think of it like the BBC. We have this broadcasting channel called 𝓂𝆃Prt, which is TVP, and all their main news broadcasting anchors were selected by the ruling party. All day long, 24/7, there was right-wing propaganda in favor of the party and everything that you could think of negative for the other parties. They wanted to curtail the freedom of speech, so they wanted to ban the most liberal channel, which was TVN. TVN is owned by Discovery Channel, which is an American company, and they believed that this was a threat to the freedom of Poland, the independence of Poland, therefore they wanted to ban that channel. They broke the constitution so many times, they did not care, and because of this, the EU actually fined Poland 1 million euros per day. Do you know who else they hated? Yes, you guessed that right, immigrants. They were so against immigrants and protecting the Polish values that they actually tried to create a referendum to stop immigrants coming into Poland. However, the referendum failed to reach a 50% turnout, which means that the referendum wasn't valid. They, however, created a wall border similar to the border in America between America and Mexico to stop immigrants coming from Belarus into Poland and into the EU. Belarus was basically pushing immigrants through Poland into the EU, and Poland stopped this by building this wall. Some of those poor immigrants were stuck in that space between the Polish army and the Belarusian army, and they were denied humanitarian aid. No one was allowed to enter to help them, and unfortunately a lot of them died. There was a lot more that the ruling party did over the 8 years, but these were some of the biggest controversies around the world that happened. And unless you were a Polish white man living in Poland, your life was probably hell. I know a lot of people don't care about politics, but this result is actually scary, and America actually has a lot of influence on the world and the politics of other countries, so this result is also scary for other countries. A lot of these things happen in Poland after Trump won last time, so just imagine the things that will happen after he just won now.
Israel and Western mainstream media is once again portraying Israelis as victims of unprovoked attacks. They're even using images such as this to depict the violence directed towards Israeli football fans, when in reality, this is a picture of an Israeli mob jumping a Dutch person. In spite of the narrative going around that Israeli soccer fans were attacked because of the rise of anti-Semitism, this couldn't be further from the truth. So here's the actual series of events that eventually led to the brawl between Israeli football fans and Dutch football fans. First of all, during the start of the game between Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv, the Israeli fans disrespected the minute of silence dedicated to the victims of the floods in Valencia. Instead of standing respectfully in silence, they began to yell and cheer during that moment of silence. After the game, the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were chanting anti-Arab slogans, calling for the unaliving of Arabs, as well as attacking Palestinian flags. Afterwards, Israelis began tearing down Palestinian flags off of residential buildings, and that is when the Dutch citizens retaliated against the provocation. This resulted in about 10 to 20 Israelis being injured, with 7 reported as missing, with one of the Israeli rioters actually being identified as an IOF soldier. The Israeli government is calling this pogrom and labeling it as another day of Holocaust for Jews, and they even sent a military plane to try to...
You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. You will not be able to lose yourself on Skag and skip out for beer during commercials because the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be brought to you by Xerox in 4 parts without commercial interruptions.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but nobody cares that you're Jewish. Like, nobody cares. In fact, all of the super Jews on blue tick Twitter that are speaking about pogroms in Amsterdam right now. Bro, if you didn't tell me you was Jewish, I wouldn't have known you was Jewish. I would have just thought you was any Becky or Tom or Glenda. Now that I do know that you're Jewish, I still don't give a fuck. Bro, this is not Russia in the 1800s. Like, fucking relax. There's 15,000 Jews that live in Amsterdam. They seemed fine until some Israeli hooligans showed up, started ripping down Palestine flags, chanting death to Arabs, abusing cab drivers, refusing to observe a moment of silence for the Valencia flood victims, saying shit like there are no schools left in Gaza because there are no children left in Gaza. Turns out, when you spend a year making your national anthem, May Your Village Burn, somebody's going to knock your teeth out. Because unlike the ICC and the ICJ, the streets have a quicker judicial process. Naftali Bennett is in his feelings because some Israelis got hurt. The same guy who said about Gaza, he who does not mow the grass mows him. Ain't got shit to do with being Jewish. It's because you're supporting a state that is currently in court for genocide. Israel has killed 120,000 Palestinians, and the Zionists on Twitter are upset that some avocados are damaged. How anti-Semitic. Fucking get over yourself. You guys want to be oppressed so bad, Ben Shapiro was over here wriggling out of identifying as a white man.
Do you not agree that you are a white man?
I mean, I think that it depends on the context in which you're discussing it.
So what are you, Ben? Are you not a white guy?
I mean, I'm a man of Jewish ethnicity, which is sometimes grouped with white and sometimes not. I mean, that's the more accurate way to put it. But when we're talking about...
What else would you be grouped with?
Silly shit. As I was saying to my friend recently, who's Jewish, anti-Semitism today, whether it's perceived or actual, cannot be distinguished from anti-Israel sentiment because people don't care that you're Jewish. They care that you're supporting a sports team that is representing a country that currently has 400,000 people surrounded in the north of Gaza and has not allowed practically a single calorie to enter, has declared all of them combatants, and has spent this entire week repeatedly attacking a hospital where they already removed the doctors from and detained. Nobody cares that you're Jewish, sweetheart. It's 2024. People are doing Uber shares and eating ass. Nobody gives a fuck. Stop being a genocidal psychopath. Now, I'm sure there's some people who didn't have shit to do with shit got hurt in Amsterdam. I'm sure that happens. That always happens. But it ain't got shit to do with you being Jewish. Again, nobody cares. It's because Israel is committing genocide.
This new law of Israel deporting relatives of supposed terrorists to the Gaza Strip is essentially a death sentence. This law only applies to Arab Israelis and includes children, mothers, wives, who probably didn't even know about the attack prior to anything happening. Now, it looks like Western media is trying to soften the blow with this news to the American public by saying it's likely to get struck down by Israeli courts. Why would you even need to say that? Is it because this legislation is pretty racist? It doesn't really make much of a difference when there's a 61-41 vote. We know how the Israeli government feels about Arab Israelis and the Palestinians. This normalization of segregated policies is only getting worse with these numbers. God's chosen people want to specifically deport to the location of a genocide for up to 20 years. It's unclear whether the law would apply to the occupied West Bank, where Israel has already had a long-standing policy of demolishing family homes of attackers, which critics decry as collective punishment. But there's no emphasis on any of this. And in fact, the government actually took down this webpage. There's no information available. And this is just another way that America suppressed information that Israelis commit acts of terrorism against Palestinians. Even Times of Israel has a whole section of this. 2 Jewish men suspected of terror attack, racial assault of Arab Israeli in Jerusalem. U.S. removes radical Jewish group CAC. 2022, that group was removed from a terrorism blacklist. 7 arrested in an attack against an Arab man. 10 accomplice to Denley Duma arson attack. I mean, this is just well documented for the past 76 years, but it has been suppressed in the Western media, but the information is out there. Just an infograph alone of settler violence, 2017 to 2022, on nearly a 200% increase. I just can't even imagine what the numbers are now. And none of these guys will ever see this policy implemented against them.
This is absolutely crazy. The Dutch king has come out and said that we failed Jews during football attacks like we did under Nazis. And this is what's dangerous about Europe's unresolved guilt over the Holocaust during World War II. It's what's causing Western countries and politicians to be complicit in covering up Israel's crimes. To compare what happened in Amsterdam after the soccer game to that of Nazis exterminating Jewish people during World War II is an insult to the Holocaust and also an insult to what's going on in Gaza right now. Just this week alone, there were 1,300 Palestinians in Gaza that were either injured or killed in 30 distinct massacres. But there's not a single word coming from this Dutch king or other Western mainstream media outlets. And yet, they also fail to report on what actually happened. This is the Amsterdam police commissioner saying that it was the Israeli football fans that first ignited Palestinian flags on fire, as well as attacked a taxi cab driver, which resulted in the brawl. But of course, what ended up happening the next day is all the Dutch Moroccans were arrested, while all of the Israelis were, quote unquote, evacuated by 2 Israeli military planes.
A quick post to remind you and to draw your attention once again to the blatant complicity of Western media when it comes to supporting Zionist propaganda and talking points. So here's what happened in Amsterdam, for those of you that don't know, last night. Maccabi football hooligans, essentially from Israel, went into the streets alongside an unknown number of Mossad agents. Yes, I did say that. No, I'm not some crazy conspiracy theorist. It was reported in the Jerusalem Post or the Times of Israel, one of those, 3 days ago, that Mossad agents were going along with the fans just in case. Went into the streets and caused basically mayhem, racist chanting of genocidal chants of killing the Arabs and let the IDF finish the job. Essentially, ripping down Palestine flags off buildings, climbing up on buildings. As far as apparently getting into it with black and brown cab drivers, pulling them out, like assaulting them, causing general mayhem. At some point, locals fought back and put a couple of these guys on the ground. which today is being reported in Western media as an anti-Semitic assault. Some people are calling it a pogrom. The IDF has issued some statement that they're sending rescue teams and planes with medical personnel to help evacuate the victims. And if you read even The Guardian or listen to the BBC or whatever, they're totally going along with this narrative. That not that the Israelis went and instigated this genocidal, racist riot and then got their asses handed to them, but rather that this was some kind of orchestrated anti-Semitic pogrom against them. You've got these idiotic people on Twitter I've seen already today talking about how this must have been orchestrated by the mullahs in Iran. So this just, it's not that we don't have evidence already, but this is just a perfect illustration of both the way that the Zionist narrative has worked for decades, of basically inciting violence, perpetrating violence, being the aggressor, and then turning around at the slightest sign of resistance and claiming to be the victim. And a perfect illustration of how Western imperial media is entirely complicit in the propagation and dissemination of that narrative. At this point, I would say that if you get your information from places like The Guardian or the BBC, MSNBC, NBC, even what you think is left-leaning mainstream media source, and this is speaking as somebody who over the years has got some of my news from these sources, I guarantee that when it comes to certainly this topic, you are being deeply disinformed, and you need to just divest completely. Thank you.
I compile these atrocities daily, so I'd like to show you what was happening while this clip was being recorded.
We ain't for y'all asses no more. Suffer. Black folks, take y'all asses back to Starbucks. Go get your mocha frappuccino. I just saw a video of a Palestinian woman saying, vote for Jill Stein or Donald Trump, or whatever you do, don't vote for Kamala Harris because you will not be accepted into my community. Fine, bitch. We're gonna go ahead and give money to that community. Fine. Fuck that. I am on my petty era. I'm burning everybody, okay? Myself included. The bridge, the house, the people, the animals, and the motherfucking trees. Everybody can get it. Black folks, fuck that shit. Go get your frappuccinos. Go back to McDonald's. Stop protesting everybody that we was protesting, because we already know what the fuck they did. They fucked us because they were already fucked and didn't know that fucking us fucked them even more. Because we ain't for y'all asses no more. Suffer. I actually feel good about that. I'm going to get Starbucks.
I'm impressed. It took one excuse and a failed campaign for you to materially support a genocide. For everybody else, when you see commentary such as this, I need you to understand that they were never on your side. People don't tend to support causes just because they get something out of it. And they don't turn around and become the aggressor the second that they're slighted. She was never on your side, and if you happen to find the video on TikTok, neither was anybody in the comments.
Israelis go to Amsterdam, chant "Let the IDF win" and "Fuck the Arabs," and this is the article we get. If you have not been paying attention, a group of Israelis went to Amsterdam for a soccer game. Prior to the soccer game, they vandalized taxicabs, they vandalized people's homes with Palestinian flags, and they were seen burning Palestinian flags. And because it was the Israeli soccer team, there was protests. So Israelis showed up to counter-protest and started saying things like, "Fuck you, terrorist, everybody die." Also chanting things along the lines of, "There are no children left in Gaza because all the schools have been blown up." Now, I do not condone violence even against scum like this, but I can acknowledge that provoking people and saying hateful things is going to cause violence. And to just shift the narrative and ignore all those things and just call it anti-Semitic is wild to me. Because I believe anti-Semitism and Islamophobia is absolutely on the rise right now.
But to claim that these people were just peacefully walking the street and all of a sudden were attacked is just not true. But there is no articles of an anti-Arab narrative, only anti-Semitism.
The incident with the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans in Amsterdam is only getting more insane because last night they were targeted after their horrendous behaviour, and instead of maybe considering why UEFA let a country which is currently committing genocide and ethnic cleansing against Palestinians and whose football league is filled with racist teams who pride themselves on not employing Arabs, well, instead of dealing with that, of course, Zionists and Western media are pretending that this is somehow similar to the extermination of Jewish people in Europe in the 1930s and 40s. And I am sorry, this is ridiculous and it diminishes the legacy of these horrors, because these people were not targeted on the basis of their Jewishness. They were targeted because Maccabi Tel Aviv fans are violent hooligans who were rampaging through the streets of Amsterdam, attacking people, tearing down flags, chanting about there being no children and schools left in Gaza, saying let the IOF win so they can fuck the Arabs, and other just horrors. These people need to be banned from international football. The blame is squarely with UEFA. This isn't some anti-Semitic outburst against Jewish people that came from nowhere. This comes from the racism which permeates Israeli society and the way in which this spills over whenever Israelis travel to other countries. And as I say, UEFA is to blame, because this isn't even the first incident with Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. In March this year, they beat a Palestinian man unconscious in Athens before their game with Olympiacos, and yet instead of dealing with them, UEFA lets this group of people who celebrate genocide and violently attack those who oppose it continue going around Europe to do more celebration and then expects people not to react. This is farcical and ridiculous, and the way in which it is being framed, as I say, is just disgusting.
This is urgent news from Gaza. 12:30 a.m. Palestine time, November 9th. 70% of the Palestinians martyred in Gaza from November 2023 to April 2024. 70% of them were women and children. These statistics are part of a new report released by the UN Human Rights Office, which quantified more details of the aggression. 80% of the murders in the Gaza Strip ascended in residential buildings by American bombs. 44% of the murders are children and 26% are women. The most represented age group of the children murders are between age 5 and 9. A 97-year-old woman is the oldest murder recorded. The youngest one recorded is a 1-day-old baby. But if you've paid attention to Gaza journalist reports over the past year, you've more than likely heard more than one story. And I honestly can't tell you how many I've seen. I'm not kidding, at least 10 of not only pregnant women being martyred with their babies in their wombs, but martyred and their babies are blown outside of their wombs. Sometimes the baby would survive and pass away later. Sometimes they would be martyred, but they would be separated from their mother before it happened. Again, I saw this reported more than a handful of times. And when I say I saw this reported, I don't mean I read a report. I mean I saw the video of the woman, of her womb opened up, of either the baby being attached by the umbilical cord but outside of the womb, or the umbilical cord being broken and the baby somewhere else in the rubble, in the ruins. So I've seen these reports. When I say that, I mean I've seen it. That's why I know it happened more than once, and if you've seen it, there's no way you would forget that. But as has been proven over the past few days, some Americans really don't know how bad it is in Gaza. They looked away a long time ago. I guess in the week following October 7th, you followed Under the Desk News' guide to censor your social media feeds, so you didn't have to see the genocide that's being funded by your tax dollars, the bombs that are being not only funded by your tax dollars, bought with the money that you pay, right, to your government, but then that money that is being given to the Zionist entity is then returned to American defense contractors, weapons manufacturers, right? They get that money from the Zionist entity, and then they ship the bombs there. I guess some of you didn't want to look at it, so you censored your feed, and that's why you're so proud to say that you hope Trump turns Gaza into a parking lot, because obviously you haven't seen a fucking photo of Gaza, or you would know that Gaza has already been flattened, that people live in the rubble, in bombed-out homes, breathing in asbestos, dust. I saw someone on Twitter yesterday gloating about the situation in North Gaza, and how people voted for this, or didn't vote and therefore asked for this from Trump, and that's why it's happening. As if North Gaza hasn't been under a total siege for over a month, starving, bombing, even more intensified than in the rest of Gaza, which is also enduring endless genocide. Nothing has changed in Gaza today because Gaza is enduring a genocide for 400 days now. Endless. Endless. In the last 400 days, 3,759 massacres have been carried out by the occupation forces, funded by our tax dollars. This has resulted in 53,508 martyrs and missing. And remember, most of these missing are under the rubble, those that haven't been abducted by the occupation forces, because that's the only other way people go missing in Gaza since this aggression is the occupation forces kidnapping them and taking them to torture camps, occupation prisons within the occupied interior like Damon prison. And the conditions in those prisons, some would say, are worse than death. 85,500 tons of bombs have been dropped on Gaza in the past year. That's the equivalent of 7 nuclear bombs dropped on Gaza. That's nearly 2 tons of munitions per martyr. Martyrs continue to ascend daily, particularly in the northern Gaza Strip. Just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it's not horrifying. There is a lack of civil defense, medical personnel, and journalists because they've been assassinated, they've been targeted, and their services have been disabled. Their equipment destroyed, their hospitals destroyed, journalists assassinated, medical workers have been kidnapped, all of them constantly bombed. There are, of course, intentional media blackouts. The occupation forces for the past 400 days has continued to target civil infrastructure and especially communications infrastructure. Do not stop talking about North Gaza. I am someone that covers this 24/7 on my Telegram channel. The URL is on my profile. I can tell you, as someone who has followed this coverage day and night for the past 400 days, it's never been so hard to get news from Gaza. So it is important that we share the news that we do get and share from the journalists that have stayed there to tell us, like Anas Sharif and Hossam Shabet. To support a food distribution network run by a Palestinian family in Gaza, go to Faiz Kadata's profile. The URL for his family's campaign is on his profile. They are also providing with your contributions clothes and medicine for orphans and especially children displaced from Jabalia camp to Gaza City in northern Gaza. My first pinned video has more info on this campaign, and make sure to click on YouTube on my profile and subscribe for where my coverage will be once the TikTok ban goes into effect in the beginning of 2025. Thank you.
Hi, can you please help us raise some money to feed the displaced people on the ground in Congo and Sudan? You can help if you just take a few minutes and I'll explain to you exactly how. Again, I cannot stress the level of emergency. Please just take a few minutes. Do not let this video disappear into the noise. All safe hands on deck. If you cannot donate, even if you can donate, please make sure you do all of the things that are most important to get this video engagement. Reposting, stitching, duetting, adding to stories, and sharing as a direct message to your friends to make sure that more eyes get onto the video. If you'd like to donate, please donate to our Venmo or our Cash App. They are linked in my bio, but I will list them in the comment. If you do not have either, please send me a direct message for a link to the PayPal. If you would like to support our overall project of bringing long-term sustainable change to the ground in Africa, please buy off of the wish list that is linked in my bio. You can also volunteer with us. The form is also linked in my bio. If you're a translator, a web developer, or a content creator, please I am begging you to volunteer with us because we need all safe hands on deck. Please make sure that this video doesn't disappear into the noise. TikTok is now deciding that I deserve to go back into a shadow ban. I'd really love to stay outside of it and continue to show up on people's For You pages because you guys are literally the only way that we can fundraise and get aid to people on the ground in Africa. I am begging you, please, all safe hands on deck.
The atrocities never stay where they have been committed. Have you noticed that? They never stay where they've been committed, you know? I was thinking about that a lot, especially this past week when you guys were so upset about that IOF, whichever soldier who had an expose about being depressed, about committing war crimes and shit. And depression is like the nicest response to that behavior. These are people, this is a society where the majority of the people are either reservists or full-fledged, full-time military enlisted individuals. Everybody's put some work in to these war crimes, and the atrocities never stay where they're committed. Ever. So all this shit that they've been doing against Palestinians, they're going to be doing at home to their children, to their loved ones, to each other, to themselves. And I can say this with such certainty because I had people come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and they were not the same when they left. They were not the same people. They came back fucked in the head. fucked in the head and could not reassimilate into normal society because what is happening is not fucking normal. There's nothing normal about this, and you're not going to go back to normal, right? They are quite literally destroying themselves from the inside out, thinking that they're creating this like utopia free of Palestinians. Much like the Americans thought that they were creating this utopia of democracy for the Iraqis and the Afghans. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. What is going to happen is that a lot of them IOF and IDF soldiers are going to be waking up in the middle of the night choking the shit out of their wives, beating the crap out of their children, if not assaulting them in other ways. They're going to come back shooting each other, if not themselves. That's what happened to the American sniper. Another motherfucker who just happened to be a little bit more fucked up than him came back home and was like, pat, pat, pat. Now he's gone. That's what they have to look forward to. And that's what we have to look forward to. Because as much as we're like, fuck these guys, a lot of them have American passports. A lot of them have European passports. And they're going to come back home after all of that raping and pillaging and find that their family members deserted them. Left them. Because they were like, I'm not living in this bitch with this shit. No, I want to go back to when things were a little bit more stable. And they're going to come back to your neighborhood, to my neighborhood, with all of that damage, all those atrocities, all of that actions that they will never be able to live with. They're never going to be able to take to the grave without taking a few more bodies with them. All of that is coming back to us. That's what we have to look for. We could only wish, we could only hope that the motherfuckers come back with like a missing limb or shit. It's not going to be that, fam. It's not going to be that because the atrocities don't stay. And what's wild is what they don't understand about the fact that they're destroying themselves from the inside out is, and it's the same lesson that the white people here in this country are going to have to understand. Even if you were to get your little white utopia, get rid of all the black people, all the indigenous people in America, all the Palestinian and African people in fucking Israel. And if you got rid of, we could disappear tomorrow. Because of how this society is structured, you will always need an other. It cannot survive without one. So even when the obvious lesser thans that you have deemed needing to be removed are removed, somebody else is going to become the other. You cannot come out of this unscathed. And that is what is coming back to us. That will be what comes back to Europe. That is what will become what comes back to America. That is what will come back into Israel if it manages to still exist from all of this fucking evil shit that they're doing. They are dismantling themselves from the inside out. It might not happen tomorrow, might not happen next year, but it's gonna fucking happen. Look at America. We did GWAT for like 20 years. We have been fucked up ever since. Everything discombobulated. Y'all don't even know how to act with each other. Y'all are so fucking socially dysregulated. Shit is wild. And that was all like thanks to the GWAT. Like we did it to ourselves. We did it to ourselves. This country did it to itself. That country will do it to itself. Don't have to touch the bitch. The baby daddy already beats on her. I keep telling y'all this. Y'all don't want to listen to me. Y'all don't want to listen to me at all.
The violence that happened in Amsterdam perpetrated by Zionists wasn't a fluke. It was intentional. But to understand the intention, we have to take a couple of steps back. To understand not only the players, but the context in which it happened. Maccabi Tel Aviv is a known quantity. In 2014, 3 fans were arrested for abusing an Arab midfielder. In 2020, they rioted in the city of Jaffa, singing "Death to Arabs." And in 2023, an organization called Kick Violence Out of Israeli Football flagged 65 events of hate speech from Maccabi, not only anti-Arab, but also anti-black. So, racist behavior, check. Violent behavior, check. A Jerusalem Post article from November 5th this year insinuated that Mossad agents were going to join the fans on their trip to Amsterdam for protection. The next player is the mayor of Amsterdam, Femke Halsema. She holds the mayorship of Amsterdam as a representative of the Green Party, who advocates for immediate ceasefire, who advocates for the respect of international law, as well as sanctions and diplomatic measures against Israel. She has personally been at odds with the extreme right-wing led coalition that now rules the Netherlands. One example is the legalization of drugs, which she supports and the government does not. Like a lot of extreme right-wing governments in Europe, the Dutch government supports Israel. The mayor was specifically called out by this government for authorizing pro-Palestinian protests to happen in October this year. So there you have the players. And now let's speak about the date of the game, the eve of the anniversary of Kristallnacht in Germany. And then you have a political context in Europe in which you have several figures that seek to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And an Israeli government that not only is known for using the Holocaust as a shield for criticism, but also thrives on the conflation of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. A government that knows that they can exploit a supine media, both in the UK and the US and in the Netherlands. A media environment that has been proven time and again to conflate anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. We know how our media operates, how they favor Israel and Israelis, and how they cover them, and the different types of language that they use to describe pro-Palestinian supporters and Zionists. And the presumption of innocence that goes attached to each. And even the police in the Netherlands have been tentative in describing these events in the way that the Western media has described them. Because they know that unlike politicians and journalists, they are going to be in that role on a more permanent basis when court cases start to arrive. Me, particularly, the horrifying psychological part of this is not the use by the Israeli governments of this sort of events to quell dissent on politicians that they don't think toe the line when it comes to Israel hard enough. It is the weaponization of the valid fears of anti-Semitism that exist in Europe. They are terrifying Jewish populations in Europe, but at the same time weakening the definition of anti-Semitism.
Maccabi hooligans were walking around in our city. They were armed. And they were attacking people from Amsterdam, mostly people that looked like Arabs or Muslims or people that were wearing Palestinian symbols. And they were tearing down flags from houses, Palestinian flags from houses. They were chanting, "Let the IDF win," to the Arabs. And this is actually part of a longer chant, which also includes there are no schools in Gaza because there are no children left. And these people, they brought banners with them, they brought stickers with them. One of the stickers I saw myself said, we make war for fun, or we have war for fun. They were glorifying genocide. So of course, people from Amsterdam, they got really angry, and actually one of them ended up in the canal. That was a counter-attack, you could say. And there was actually a lot of police response, but it was mostly directed at the pro-Palestinian protesters. The media coverage in the Netherlands, it was, as far as I've seen, very one-sided. Titles like a pogrom happening in Amsterdam, like people that were Jew hunting, and that was the frame, that these attacks on these Maccabi hooligans were actually anti-Semitic attacks, and completely leaving out the context in which all of this happened. And that context is not only the initial violence that was being used by the Maccabi hooligans, but it is also the Dutch government being complicit in the genocide. I think this is actually a well-known Zionist tactic to provoke, to attack, and then to play the victim.
Israel has a secret weapon in its genocide on Gaza: the media. Ever since Israel's war on Gaza began, Western outlets, from the BBC to CNN, from The Guardian to the New York Times, have made themselves complicit in the murder of tens of thousands of Palestinians. And they've done this in three important ways, beginning as soon as Israel's war began. First, they've concealed important context from their audiences. After October 7th, the media repeatedly asked this question:
do you condemn what Hamas did?
Do you support what Hamas launched?
Will you now take the opportunity to condemn what Hamas did on October the 7th?
Though you cannot condone the killing of civilians in Israel, can you?
Now that question served to frame anyone who was trying to contextualize the attack or to raise concerns about Israel's response as illegitimate. This was an attempt to silence any speaker sympathetic to the Palestinian cause, including most of the Palestinians who were invited on air, by casting them as suspicious. And the question effectively erased discussion of Israel's occupation and oppression of the Palestinians from public view right from the start. And when Palestinians did try to talk about history, they were misrepresented. Here's one very striking example. On the 10th of October last year, Sky's Kay Burley more than once accused Palestinian ambassador to the UK, Hussam Zomlot, of saying on 7th of October that Israel had it coming.
The Palestinian ambassador basically said the last couple of days that Israel had it coming. This is an atrocious comment by the Palestinian ambassador to the UK.
What he actually said was, Israel knew this was coming their way. Sky later apologized.
We recognise that this was not what Dr. Zomlot had said.
But do you see the trick? Second, instead of providing context to Israel's war, the media has often preferred fiction. Time and again, journalists failed to challenge Israel's assertions. For example, they repeatedly allowed Israeli officials to broadcast the myth of Israel's precise military operations in Gaza without scrutiny. Meanwhile, claims of widespread systematic sexual assault on October 7th continued to be stated as fact. That's despite many of the sources of those claims proving later to be unreliable.
Since the 7th of October, Israel started preparing and putting together a huge campaign to delegitimize the Palestinian people, then do the ethnic cleansing, and then the international media, mainstream media, were literally following the cues.
Third, Palestinians have been constantly dehumanized. Their political aims and aspirations have been erased. Palestinians have been constantly cast as either terrorists,
the worst terror attack in Israeli history today, laying bare the brutality in graphic detail,
or victims of a humanitarian disaster.
The humanitarian crisis in northern Gaza intensifies.
And that's a binary that erases the notion of Palestinian resistance from the public conversation. That binary also benefits Israel. If Palestinians are all terrorists, then they can be killed without accountability. And if they're all victims of a humanitarian disaster, then there's no blame to be apportioned for this naturally occurring crisis. Either way, media outlets can avoid saying who killed those Palestinians when they simply die in their thousands.
In Gaza, Hamas officials say at least 700 people have been killed.
More than 1,400 people have been killed.
50 children have been killed in 48 hours in Jabalia in northern Gaza.
The war in Gaza continues with significant civilian casualties.
Instead of calling for the bombs to stop, the media can focus on simply calling for humanitarian aid to get in. And instead of exposing the causes of this genocide, the media can adopt the much more comfortable frame of an inexplicable disaster. So why have Western audiences lapped up this false framing? That's easy. It's because they've long been conditioned to view events in the Middle East through Islamophobic, racist narratives. For at least the last 23 years, the war on terror has been the lazy and simplifying lens through which countries like the US and its allies have justified all manner of violence.
And rid the world of thousands of terrorists and freed a country from brutal oppression. We are winning the war on terror.
This fake war on terror stamp on the Arab world has created false contrasts between terrorists and victims and between barbaric chaos and the liberal order. And it's erased all distinctions between different groups of rebellious Muslims. It's merged resistance with insurgents and conflated independence movements with Islamist imperialist projects, positioning all of them as a threat to Western democracy. Here's a fact. On October 7th last year, every journalist in every Western newsroom knew what Israel was about to do to Gaza. What's been lacking isn't knowledge, but the moral courage to report the truth. It takes courage to report honestly on a genocide. And it takes courage to reveal the complicity of Western governments required to make it possible. And it takes even more courage to cut a clear path through a colonial history of abuse and occupation that Western audiences have long been trained to ignore and reject.
Wow, Sky News really published this report about the violence in Amsterdam and then deleted it.
Violence in Amsterdam left at least 5 people injured and dozens have been arrested. But what happened? Supporters of Israeli football club Maccabi Tel Aviv arrived in Amsterdam ahead of their UEFA Europa League match against Amsterdam club Ajax. On Wednesday, social media videos verified by Sky News show Maccabi Tel Aviv fans tearing down Palestinian flags from outside of homes. Other social media videos appeared to show residents chasing Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. On Thursday, just before the game, crowds of Maccabi fans were filmed singing racist and anti-Arab songs. While a pro-Palestinian demonstration had been banned by the mayor over fears there would be clashes. Later that evening during the match, Israeli supporters appeared to disrupt the minute silence for Valencia flood victims with chants, whistles and fireworks. Maccabi fans were seen attacking locals as a police car can be seen driving by. People with Palestinian flags were seen marching on the streets. Maccabi supporters say they were beaten and attacked on the streets of the Dutch capital, with videos showing some of the violence.
Say free Palestine and we go. Good.
Sky News could not independently verify all of the footage shown. Police arrested 62 people. 5 were taken to hospital, but have since been discharged. Israeli far-right ultras are notorious for their racism and physical violence. Dutch, Israeli and British leaders denounced the attacks as anti-Semitic and even referred to it as a pogrom. But their statements failed to mention the assaults by the Israeli hooligans against Dutch citizens.
I guess one too many executives couldn't digest real journalism, and so they instructed their staff to delete it so that they could go back to propaganda about anti-Semitism.
Yep. This is what they want. This is what Western news media wants. They want to be able to tell the world, oh, look, see, Jews are at risk, so that they can justify Israeli aggression toward Palestine and all of its neighbors in the Levant. This is incredibly strategic reporting. To spread propaganda that Jews were randomly attacked in Amsterdam, rather than making it clear that Zionists were inciting violence by chanting things like death to Arabs, attacking cab drivers, chanting things about all of the children in Gaza being dead, like all of that was erased from these headlines that just say Jews attacked, and of course they want you afraid. Fear is really good for fascistic machines. If all the Jews around the world can be convinced via propaganda, particularly those outside of Israel, that they are at risk all the time, that they are under threat all the time, it lends legitimacy to this ethno-nationalist project. I have traveled alone as a Jew in Europe. I was fine. I have lived by myself as a Jew in the Midwest in the United States. I'm fine. At some point, you have to start rolling your eyes at the messages of everyone wants to kill you, because the everyday evidence of my life rejects that message. I have a lot of evidence that people want to take me to coffee, a lot less evidence that they want me dead. I'm sorry that you had to feel panic about this. That's deeply unfair.
Facts that contradict the narrative of Jews being colonizers in the land of Israel. Jews have no other land. Speaking of Jews as being colonizers in this land makes about as much sense as calling Anishinaabe colonizers in this land. We have no other. You've spoken at the beginning of your talk about the role of European countries. You know that since being forcibly expelled from our land, our people have not been treated as anything but other in not one single European country. Not in your homeland of Italy, not in any other.
Okay, I think we can stop there and respond to that question.
How does speaking of a colonial, speaking through the framework of colonialism, bring to any result than distortion of the truth?
I was looking for the Jabotinsky. Have you read him?
I read some.
Probably you have not read it all.
I have not read all of most anything, but yes.
Yeah, but probably this is, I mean, before coming to me and accusing me of saying things like this, read Jabotinsky.
I'm accusing you of omission.
You ask, I listened to you patiently and I beg you to listen to me now. I won't take long. But Jabotinsky and another nourished group of the founding fathers of Israel when colonialism was kosher, they used this language: let us colonize Palestine as the British have colonized India and the French have colonized Algeria. Again, the fact that the Jewish people had no land is not something that had to be paid by the Palestinians or any other people, because at the height of colonialism, the Zionist organization in Europe, and there were many Jewish people against this. I would like I encourage you to read the work of Moshe Behar, and not very known internationally. I mean, at least by me, he's not one of the new historians. He's a proper, regular Israeli historian. But again, he has documented the opposition that Arab Jews had to Zionism, because they were saying, we are from here, we have nothing to do with this European colonial project. So they were also asking, before Palestine, which clearly had a religious appeal, the Zionist organization was asking, was lobbying with other countries, primarily the UK, to consider giving them land in Uganda or in Argentina or other places. So, I mean, again, I hear your need of a land for a people. The problem is that the land that you chose was already inhabited by people who were dispossessed with everything they left behind destroyed. Is it fair? This is a question I'm asking you. Is it fair?
This is exactly what I mean. Your use of the word chose. You mentioned at the beginning of your talk IJV, Independent Jewish Voices. To the extent that some members of IJV are Jewish, their grandparents pray 3 times a day for centuries to face in Jerusalem, where the people, it was the Jewish community, the ancient Jewish community of Hebron, massacred in 1929, destroyed, and a massacre so brutal that it reached front pages of the American press 2 decades before Israel even was a state. Were they colonialists?
I think
They were not, and they were, in fact, many of them, as it's interesting that you pick and choose the story to report, because many of them who were not killed were protected by their non-Jewish neighbors. And if we are here counting the deaths and the victims only on the ground of religion, we will never end. The point is today, how we get over this is about, like Amos Goldberg and Bashir have written this wonderful book, recognizing the trauma of the other, recognizing the pain of the other. We cannot keep on talking about who has killed many more people, because in any case, the Palestinians would win.
Clear. I think this is going to be the biggest loss to the pro-Palestinian movement.
This is such a disingenuous take, and another example of why people need to stop basing all their ideas and opinions solely on social media. You call yourself a political analyst, yet you should know better that the Palestinian cause and the movement is much older than you and I. It is much bigger than just TikTok or Instagram or anything of that nature. It is a global movement comprised of many different socioeconomic backgrounds, of which led by Palestinians. So a handful of people storming Starbucks to spend $10 on their soy lattes is not going to break the movement. You call yourself a political analyst, yet you should know better that the third party vote was not what broke the election. She lost the popular vote and the electoral vote. She did not win one swing state. She got whooped. I know this is the trend right now to bash Palestinians again, and that video of yours has over 160K likes, so I hope those few dollars were worth it.
Go to children, bitch!
For the children, motherfucker!
Give me my money, please. Say free Palestine and we go. Good.
To know how to stop your enemy, you have to understand how it works. Israel is not just colonizing Palestine. If it was just colonizing Palestine, it would be much easier to stop them. They have colonized every government in the West. They have colonized the minds of Western governments, politicians, governments everywhere who support them. Without that support, without the US arming and paying for this genocide, it would stop overnight. So we have to fight colonialism everywhere because Israel has colonized the American mind, the British mind, the European mind. More importantly, they've colonized the Jewish people everywhere. They have colonized Judaism, the tradition, the beliefs, the religion, the experience of Jews for 2,000 years was colonized by Zionism. And these Jews are supporting in great numbers, not just here, but everywhere in the West, they are supporting the genocide. Shame on them! They are not real Jews. We are here because we know the history of Judaism. And they are actually making sure that Jewish people will suffer from anti-Semitism everywhere. They are helping anti-Semitism every day with their genocide and with their hasbara and with their crimes. So I want to say, to end, there are three other types of colonialism that we have to fight. They have colonized the Western governments, and we need to bring an end to that. We, the people in the West, must stand up against our own governments. No one which supported genocide should sit in government anywhere. They should sit in jail. Now, the other area, which I'm very worried about, because I'm an academic, they have colonized all the universities in the West. And we are not able to speak there. Even academics are not allowed to speak in universities if you are speaking against Zionism. We must decolonize the higher education system and the whole education system. And last but not least, I think we must decolonize the whole system of the media, which is supporting, which is aiding, which is abetting, and abetting Israel and its genocide everywhere.
In addition to the atrocities and massacres that took place in Gaza this week, we're going to try and cover the main events, starting with the bombing of Kamal Udwan Hospital several times, especially the floor that had medical equipment sent in by the WHO, forced displacement to the people in northern Gaza, Beit Lahia, Jabalia, Beit Hanun, along with new evacuation orders to the people in Nasr, Shatit, and Al-Karama area. An UNRWA school that has been bombed, causing over 17 murders and dozens of injuries. Fahid School in At-Tufah area that has also been bombed this morning, causing over 5 murderers, 2 of them which are journalists, covering the atrocities happening in northern Gaza. Reports of people not allowed to return to the evacuated areas from 𓂀🆃Prt and Beit Hanun. A tent this morning bombed in Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir al-Balah, along with the continuous bombing that happened in Khan Younis, Nusayrat, Maghazi, and all over the Strip.
Je pense que le Canada, comme tout pays qui a un passé colonial, a une obligation en plus envers le peuple palestinien. Parce que, différemment que les États-Unis, le Canada est rentré dans un processus de révision du passé, de reconnaissance de ce qu'on a fait aux peuples autochtones. Mais si ça c'est un acte sincère, on doit aussi aider les autres pays qui sont à risque, dont l'existence est mise en péril par des atteintes coloniales, par des attaques coloniales, à se protéger. Comment c'est possible que pendant des années, le Canada a permis aux produits des colonies israéliennes de rentrer dans ce pays, quand ils émanaient, ils ressortaient d'un crime, comme un crime de guerre. Et c'est pour ça qu'aujourd'hui, on n'a plus d'excuses. On doit tout revoir, les relations politiques, diplomatiques, économiques, militaires, stratégiques avec l'État d'Israël. Sinon, on risque d'être complice avec un régime qui commet des atrocités. Et j'insiste, dans un pays qui a un passé colonial, ça c'est une responsabilité encore plus aiguë que dans d'autres pays.
So you're angry at Palestine protesters post-election cycle and you announce that you head to McDonald's and Starbucks and you don't give a damn anymore. But boycotting these companies isn't just about Palestine. It's about not supporting brands that profit from modern day slavery and do so at the expense of Black people around the world and even in this country. Let's take a look at McDonald's, for instance. Right now in states like Alabama, McDonald's is profiting from prison labor. Incarcerated people, mainly Black people, are taken from overcrowded, brutal prisons to fast food kitchens where they're forced to work for next to nothing. If they refuse, they face punishment, lose visitation rights, or even get their sentences extended. And even the little bit of pennies that they do make, it gets slashed with the prison systems taking a chunk for themselves. This isn't just something that is unfair. It's slavery with a new name that's built on the backs of Black people and hidden behind the golden arches. And then you got Starbucks, which claims to use ethically sourced chocolate. But according to humanrights.org, the truth is that some of that cocoa comes from West Africa, where Black children are forced to work on cocoa plantations. Yes, plantations, missing out on school and facing dangerous conditions. These kids should be learning, playing, and dreaming, but instead they're trapped in a cycle of exploitation so Starbucks can turn a profit and you can have your drink. But going back to McDonald's and Starbucks, you're not just sticking it to the protesters, you're actively choosing to support companies that exploit Black people as well, both here at home and overseas. It's not just incarcerated Black people forced to flip burgers, it's Black children halfway across the world slaving in dangerous plantations so Starbucks can sell more chocolate fraps. Okay? And I know that some of you guys are going to say, oh, you don't have a right to tell me how to feel, blah, 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 blah. I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm just informing you that the choices you are making and kikiing and laughing about affect Black people all over the country. But honestly, I'm not expecting to change the hearts and minds of y'all because, like my friend says, you cannot reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into to begin with. But I will say, breaking the boycott isn't a gotcha to Palestinians who, being real, shouldn't even be the target of this hate, but it's a betrayal to Black people around the world and in the United States. So I guess I just want to ask y'all.
The only thing that causes inflation is government overspending, because the checks never bounce.
What, you mean like the estimated $4.9 billion the government has overspent to subsidize you building your empire? That kind of overspending? Imagine that between grants and tax breaks and subsidized construction, discounted loans and environmental credits. The government has given this self-made billionaire nearly $5 billion. And that's just the US government. Globally speaking, Tesla might be one of the more heavily subsidized private corporations in history. Subsidies they receive almost entirely based on the idea that what they're doing is good for the environment environment. An assumption that seems to be ignoring the fact that the production of electric vehicles is actually approximately 2.5 times worse for the environment, which is not even remembering to mention the monumental amount of human suffering that goes into the production, which is something we don't even remember to mention way too often, if you ask me. Either way, if your priority really is protecting the environment, not buying a new car at all is probably the obvious choice. But of course, consumer capitalism doesn't like solutions that don't involve more consumption. The name kind of gives it away. And that's just Tesla. The state of New York subsidized the construction of a solar-powered energy plant on the grounds that it was going to create thousands of new jobs. But isn't that like your job? Job creator? Isn't that like the whole justification for why people like you exist? You know, you take the risk, invest the capital, so you get the majority of the reward. If the taxpayer is subsidizing your risk, then why do you get the reward? Why do you get to play pretend capitalism with training wheels on when the rest of the world is out here actually working for a living? Now, despite what you said, I'm pretty sure another thing that causes inflation is perpetually increasing the money supply, which happens when banks lend money. Yeah, banks don't lend their own money. They create credit money. So when you borrow money from a bank, it actually increases the money supply until the loan is paid back. Like when you had to borrow $13 billion because you accidentally talked your way into buying Twitter, failed to talk your way out of it, and couldn't afford to put your money where your mouth was. So I suppose you are kind of an expert on inflation. You're definitely personally responsible for creating more inflation than the vast majority of human beings that have ever lived.
We finally got some truth about what happened in Amsterdam. Amsterdam's police chief Peter Holler confirmed that the Israeli football hooligans were the ones who incited the riots. They disturbed locals and disturbed public order. They removed flags from balconies of private homes, burned flags, and destroyed taxis. Western officials and Western media were so quick to pull the trigger on anti-Semitism. Wikipedia has renamed Israel's war on Gaza to genocide after months of debate. A Wikipedia community vote was taken to implement this change. At least 60 Jordanian men and women have joined a hunger strike. They are demanding the closure of the Jordanian crossing to block shipments of goods to Israel. They want this closure in place until sufficient humanitarian aid and medical aid goes into northern Gaza. Absolute heroes. The United Church of Canada, the second largest Christian denomination across Canada, have adopted BDS strategies and have recognized and rejected the Israeli apartheid. Now, only if the Canadian government was courageous enough to call out Israel. Finally, UNIFIL, the UN organization, have made a statement saying that Israeli bulldozers have destroyed part of the Nakura base. The IDF tried to deny that this activity was happening, but there is video evidence. The IDF is such a joke. The narrative shift about this football incident in Amsterdam is very, very important. There was just too much video evidence of what the Israeli football hooligans were getting up to prior to the Ajax supporters retaliating. Even the media couldn't hide from it this time. Citizen journalism is an indispensable asset. Be aware of your surroundings and keep capturing those important moments.
A number of controversial laws that have been passed by the Israeli parliament, the Knesset, the most notable of which gives the government the right to deport Israeli citizens that it says are family members of so-called terrorists.
It's absolutely horrifying, but it's very crucial that Israel right now is screaming two things to the whole world with these two laws. Number one, that Israel is an apartheid state, legislating laws specifically targeting Palestinian Israeli citizens and singling them out. Although you can see, for instance, under legislation with terrorism, you're seeing a growing trend of terrorist attacks by Israeli settlers in the West Bank that the IDF does absolutely nothing about. Number two is Israel screaming to the world that Gaza is or has been turned by Israel into one giant concentration camp. In the words of IDF generals themselves, like Giora Island, or Israeli historians like Baruch Kimmerling, who've been saying for 2 decades, Gaza is the largest concentration camp on earth. Now, with this law, Israel is saying that if a family member of someone who commits a terrorist offense by Israel's definition, that family member knows about the attack in advance, which is something random, ambiguous, and abstract, it's not clearly defined, then Israel gets to banish them to the Gaza Strip for 20 years. Which is like screaming to the world that Gaza is one giant graveyard, one giant cage or concentration camp. The other law that is also critical is the law that is targeting teachers and educators and even administrative workers in the education field, is basically to say that they will be kept constantly under surveillance and they will be dismissed if they display any signs of identifying with terrorists. Again, abstractly mentioned, it's ambiguous. It's up to the education ministry, the interior minister, to define what that means. But early on in the war, we saw an Israeli Jewish teacher that was imprisoned, dismissed, and humiliated even by school children at his own school because he simply put pictures of Gazan and Palestinian victims on Facebook and said they were killed by our pure great army. That was seen as identification with terrorism, and therefore he was humiliated nonstop for it. So Israel now wants to keep all Palestinian Israeli teachers and teachers, even Jewish Israeli teachers who sympathize with Gaza, under the microscope, under constant surveillance, pure emergency martial laws that are applied in the education sector to suppress any sympathy with the Palestinians.
And so the government has not confirmed all of that. But I do want to go back to your description of this being a genocide here. So Israel says that this operation in Gaza is focused on getting back the hostages from the October 7th attack and eliminating Hamas and that threat. They have the support of countries like Canada who say that Israel has the right to defend itself. How do you respond to that and that criticism that Israel does have a right to respond to defend itself?
Israel has the right to defend itself for sure, but this is not self-defense. This is a genocide. And in fact, liberating the hostages, eradicating Hamas, whatever it means, doesn't justify what Israel is doing. Why has Israel erased and leveled all universities, over 300 schools? It has destroyed the health infrastructure. It has starved the Palestinian people. It has destroyed 90% of what was life in Gaza. Why it has destroyed the Arab land, farming land. Why it has destroyed all the boats. It has killed 17,000 children. This is a stain on all of us, including Canada. How can we speak of self-defense in this context? Israel is seeding war in the region, and it's seeding the unsafety of the Israelis, unfortunately, for years and generations to come. How can this make Israelis more protected?
This for the children! For the children, motherfucker! I'll give you my money, I'll give you, please go! For the children! I'll give you my money! Free Palestine now! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Take my money, take my money! You want to kill kids? Kids are freezing, man! Kids!
Companies you need to avoid like the fucking plague because they helped Trump get elected. All of these companies up here, including McDonald's, Wendy's, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, and so many other brands that you can see right here. Versace. Home Depot, U-Haul. Home Depot Corporation has actually been a raging Republican supporter, but then when you go on their website, they say they have no political affiliation, which is a crock of shit. Estee Lauder companies. It's kind of like a monopoly, so all of these companies are included within Estee Lauder, and they all helped Trump get elected. Revlon and Chi Hair Care. New Balance, LL Bean, and Versace again for clothing. Sports has a ton in it, but some of them include WWE, UFC, and Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Dallas Cowboys, Atlanta Braves, the New York York Jets, Houston Rockets, and the Miami Dolphins. Formula One and Marvel Entertainment is also raging Republican, as well as PayPal. Next time you buy food from McDonald's, Taco Bell, or Chick-fil-A, or you decide to get makeup from Estee Lauder brands, just remember that you're helping Republicans get elected. And I understand living in America, we don't really have that many choices because while everything is practically monopolized, if you hate Trump like me, you should probably avoid those companies like the plague.
The colonizers of Palestine are coming to our city in 1 week. The JNF, the architects of ethnic cleansing in Palestine, are hosting the world's biggest Zionist conference in Dallas. For over a century, the JNF has funded the displacement of our people. Their mission is clear. Not one village, not one tribe should be left. Today, they hide behind greenwashing and charity, but their hands are stained with Palestinian blood. Now, 400 days into the ongoing genocide, the Hilton Anatole plans to welcome the JNF, the same organization funding illegal land grabs and displacement. Among the invited speakers are infamous ex-Columbia University professor Shai Davidai.
Columbia University will not speak out against pro-terror student organizations.
Yusuf Haddad.
You are a traitor.
And countless other war criminals. We must make it clear that this is our city, and the colonizers of Palestine and their bloodthirsty supporters are not welcome in Dallas. Join us for a statewide protest to shut down the JNF on Saturday, November 16th at 1 p.m. at the Hilton Anatole.
Where's the democracy in this? It's a game. This is the deep state, and they have their wars, and every war has been phony. Some wars the American people are basically never told about. For example, the war in Syria. And you may actually hear from grown-up reporters who are lying through their teeth or ignorant beyond imagining that, oh, the war in Syria, yes, Russia intervened in Syria. Well, do you know that that Obama tasked the CIA to overthrow the Syrian government, starting 4 years before Russia intervened? What kind of nonsense is that? And how many times did the New York Times report on Operation Timber Sycamore, which was the presidential order to the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad? 3 times in 10 years. This is not democracy. This is a game. And it's a game of narrative. Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003? Well, first of all, it was completely phony pretenses. It wasn't, oh, we were so wrong, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They actually did focus groups in the fall of 2002 to find out what would sell that war to the American people. Abe Schultzky, if you want to know the name of the PR genius. They did focus groups on the war. They wanted the war all the time. They had to figure out how to sell the war to the American people, how to scare the shit out of the American people. It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually. You know that? It's weird. And the way it is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you, because he's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all of this in the U.S. politics, he's gotten his way. But that war was totally phony. So what is this democracy versus dictatorship? Come on. These are not even sensible terms. And even if they were sensible terms, under the UN Charter, we can have our democracy. You do what you want.
On March 13th, 2024, our clients, who have lost dozens of family members to Israel's attacks on Gaza, announced their intention to pursue claims against Canada's government. Since then, the Canadian government has done nothing to address their pleas. Yesterday, we filed a civil claim on their behalf, seeking declarations from the Ontario Superior Court of Justice that Canada has failed to fulfill its duty to take all reasonable measures within its power to prevent genocide. Throughout this parade of horrors, Canada's support for Israel has not wavered. Although Justin Trudeau and Mélanie Joly periodically express their grave concern for the plight of Palestinians, not once have they backed up their purported concern with real action. Canada has done nothing, emboldening Israel to be more brazen. Israel, in fact, has now designated every major human rights organization in Palestine as a terrorist entity. Today, the world sees clearly that when it comes to the suffering of Palestinians, our brothers and sisters in Palestine, Canada has no red line. There's no atrocity Israel can commit that would end Canada's support for Israel. Our clients and all Palestinian Canadians are in effect victims of Canada's anti-Palestinian racism. Confronted by so much pain and so much government indifference to their agony, our clients have decided to seek justice. As stated by former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis, sunlight is the best disinfectant. Aided by a team of lawyers who are pursuing this litigation on a pro bono basis, Hani and Tamer, our clients, will shine a cleansing light on Canada's indefensible support for Israel's genocidal regime. Moreover, neither they nor their lawyers will cease until Canada has been held accountable. Even if Israel stopped its genocide tomorrow, this litigation will continue. We will not relent. We will not give Canada's government a free pass.
Crimes against the totality of the Palestinians and the totality of the land. The aim is to get Palestinian land, and meanwhile, life of the Palestinians is sacrificed and their collective life is being destroyed. Canada has clear legal obligations to intervene to prevent further atrocities, to stop it, and to ensure justice over these crimes. And instead, not only Canada is not abiding by it, but it's also, I discovered that Canada is doing some more, because there are Canadian citizens fighting with the IDF right now, Canadian citizens living in occupied land, Canadian citizens selling Palestinian land in occupied territory, Canadian charities being part of this unlawful endeavor. Canadians, what are you doing? It has killed 17,000 children. This is a stain on all of us, including Canada. How can we speak of self-defense in this context? Israel is seeding war in the region, and it's seeding the unsafety of the Israelis, unfortunately, for years and generations to come. How can this make Israelis more protected? The reaction to this report has been very strong, both in positive and negative terms. There is an entire world which is watching what's happening, not just the policymakers, including those who sit idle, who pretend not to see and turn their eyes away. History will judge them. But I'm not concerned with this. I'm concerned with the Canadians who don't want this, who cannot stomach the slaughtering of kids anymore, whatever the reasons. And I've met many officials, many elected officials, including the traditional custodians of this land. This bears witness to the commitment of the Canadian people. And but I also want to say that the louder the call for justice becomes, the louder also the outcry of the genocidal actors and organizations. And here we are, in the middle of all this, in between the abyss, the precipice, and hope for a better world. The Canadian government has still an opportunity to make wrong right. Let's see what they will do still.
Have we forgotten about the people of Sudan? We can't let that happen. Millions of Sudanese are now facing severe shortages of food, clean water, and critical medical care, leaving countless families devastated. The ongoing war has passed 500 days and affected more than 25 million people in Sudan. The Sudanese American Physicians Association are on the ground providing critical medical aid through its mobile clinics, hospitals, and medical supplies. They have been continuously helping the Sudanese since the beginning of this war, but they cannot do this alone, and they need our support. Every single donation counts. I urge you to open your hearts and give whatever you can to bring hope and healing to Sudan. Let's get together for Sudan.
well, that was not like a why, that was more like how they do it, or like how it's done. So I hope that helps, and that makes it like, whoa, right? Like you feel like, psh, okay. And they hate, so this is another thing, is like they can't stand us psychics knowing that they have like little psychics and the little dark witches and warlocks who actually also monitors and watches us as well. And you know, sometimes it happens, you see auras and stuff like that. Like white auras usually is angels and stuff like that, which most of the time, and then dark auras is monitor spirits. Okay, so it's usually them doing the exact same thing that we're doing right now, like tapping into energies, but they're doing for the other way. Okay, really fucked up way. Okay, when they find out your energy, this is why it's really important to pray. Okay, prayer protects your blessings, your environment, your you know, your health, your house and stuff like that. And anybody like trying to know your business or trying to stalk, like, yes, you could be a kind of like a energy stalker through tarot, of course. But you know, you have to use this wisely, because this also removes energy, and also you never know what you're really tapping into or who is giving you the messages as well. This is why it's important to pray over the you know, and you know, the spiritual realm is not like a joke or something like that. There's a lot of people that use the spirituality in the really dark, diabolical way, and they think it's funny. They think it's like, oh, let me do this to this person, let me, you know, and whenever I'm able to tap in the tarot or I'm able to see it, they're like, oh my God, what the fuck? They're like, you know, they get rowdy, right? They get triggered because they are doing it, right? But they need to find a way to pretend and to lie and, you know, make you like, you the crazy one, like, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't prove that, right? Or all the kind of like the usual, like, you know, comments and stuff that they say. Anyways, me, I'm just exhausted and tired, and we also see it through the media propaganda. So a lot of y'all, you learn through narcissists and abusers and sadists, if you have in your life. I hope you have to, but you learn lessons from them, okay? So your first liars and projectors and pathological ones are usually, you know, people you may know, or people that, you know, yeah. But others of you as like in a higher level, it's like intense, you know. Anyways, so yeah, so there's demonic and free spell. So someone is conjuring demons to block your blessing and bring harm your way. No weapon against us shall prosper. Okay, so that's what I was saying. The Bible is clearing. Okay, but this is also used on a macro level. Like this is used through slander, you know, all kinds of ritual stuff that they're doing. But it's also like the, okay, the essays. Okay, it's part of the ritual to freeze assets, money, or something like that. Or a lot of you is this, your healing. They're so threatened by your healing, guys. Look, you think, guys, is this, because healing is liberation. The colonization is liberation. Land back is liberation. Yeah, they know it. Yeah, so Spirit says like black salt powder, but when I first saw this, I saw black salt power. Yeah, salt power. Yeah, use black salt to break hexes and repel unwanted energies. Okay, but it wasn't just the black salt. I think he was just saying about the black community and how, you know, a lot of y'all, like, you have broken, or some of your children or the children or the future are going to break a lot of soul ties, a lot of generational curses. Okay, you're soul tied to someone and finding it hard to release this connection. So I didn't read the someone, I just said you are soul tied to whatever. Like I didn't see the someone, it was just like blank. And it's hard for you to release this connection. So a lot of you have to ask yourself these questions when you watch these things, when you're trying to help, when you're trying to advocate, and also to deal with your own life and stuff like that. Like, you also have to understand that this collective energy is just collective energy. It's not like personal and stuff like that. I don't do personal readings, so please do not get scammed or anything like that. Okay, guys, I do not. All right. I just work for YouTube and I do a lot of stuff in the background. I don't have time for that, okay? So a lot of you, like what I'm trying to say is that, please, energy needs to be used with discernment, okay? And not all the messages are for you. So you can't just make it fit because you think it fit, right? But most of the stuff that I share here are educational purposes, right? And they're not for really entertainment, okay? It's not entertainment, and it's not something for money as well, because I feel like a lot of you are like, thank you, Spirit. Like he says, yes, it's for justice. Thank you, Spirit. Okay? Yes, it's justice. We're trying to bring justice because that's my energy, justice, truth, and clarity. And if you're upset with that, you're in the wrong channel. You're in the wrong thing, okay? I'm going to expose everyone that Father God tells me and gives me the right to do so, okay? But I also have to use discernment because not everything needs to be shared. Not everything is on the right timeline. Not everything is in the right, I don't know, he said dimension, but you know what I mean, like different timelines. Everybody's in different timelines. Everybody's in different journey. Everybody's in different healing journey, okay? And this is why it's clearing. So the point is the more healing you guys do, the more this demonic tide and diabolical rituals and things that they're doing, like genocide is their ritual. This is white supremacy stuff, right? This is racist people, okay? Trigger warning if you need it, but there's no need to. I think a lot of us experience or have heard from our friends, especially those who are white descendant, okay? You have friends who go through a lot of shit. But a lot of you tend to ignore, right? You tend to like, okay, well, it's not affecting me, so what? That is like giving away your sovereignty, first of all, and then second of all, your values and morals. For what? What do you get out of it? What? Money? That's it? That's all you care about. Like a lot of y'all, this is why you're tied to situations that you blame the world, that is other people and stuff, but you don't take the time to look at yourself. Yeah. Right? Mirrors, right? A lot of people are mirroring, projecting, and stuff like that. Stop doing that. That's not part of the healing process, okay? It says the work you have done on yourself has worked. The negative energy is dissipating. So there's two dissipation. So it's 2 times energy, double karma, double situation, like I see it. Okay, a lot of you heart chakra, the throat chakra, like someone's blocking your throat. We already know that, right? But bless your soul, mijo, mija, you know. So sorry for you. Okay, so healing, you have soul tie and you have healing energy. Okay, so that's it. It's like it also, the healing that you're doing, it dissipates this soul tie. For some of you, you have created soul ties that you're really disgusted about. And I know for a lot of y'all, like you wish you never have fucking sinus, right? Yeah. Yeah, so, because you know, demon free, right? So a lot of you don't blame yourself, or, you know, like everybody heals in a different way. So a lot of you, Father God there's like a cleansing of this demonic karmic energy, because they can't stay long. They can't, especially if you're decide to heal and decide to like let go of negative energy or things that no longer serve you, or help other people. Have empathy. Yes, empathy is love, right? So it does break this vibe. It breaks it like this. So this is why the enemy, the people in power, they work in this energy. That's their energy. And they hate that I'm telling you this. So yeah, but we know what you do with your time and life, and basically you're a low life. These people have never fucking worked in their fucking life. Honestly, they steal ideas. They have stole ideas to get their wealth. They steal resources from other people, killing and massacring people. They have everything that you guys need as evidence, as justice, to bring justice to this. You guys, yeah, it's just that everything in the justice system is like, you know, give it a rest. Yeah, shut the fuck up. Yeah, okay. No, I'm not gonna shut the fuck up. You need to hear it. Also, some of you is like, they want to overcome the law, international law. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, because they have billions. This is what it is. When you enable narcissists, abusers, and people who are psychopaths, and now their psychopaths are telling people, they're giving the book, a book. I'm just laughing my ass off. Like, a Zionist, a fucking war criminal, and possibly a pedophile, as our prime minister, wrote a book. Doesn't it sound Hitler to you a little bit? Like Nazi? And then he has his 900 Nazi people, friends, right here in Canada. He doesn't want to release them though. No, boo. Yeah, no. But he's mad and upset that people are healing, people are waking up. They see their demonic thing, that they're trying to slow progress of other people and trying to get more richer, hoarding people, siphoning energy, because demonic energy is siphoning. Someone's conjuring demons to block your blessing and bring you harm. Okay? This King of Wands. No. I'm getting this King of Wands energy with the Temperance. It's like earthly energy. It's someone full of fire, full of like, this is a manifester, but also a very spiritual energy. But for a lot of you, it could be a spiritual, very foolish. Yeah. So they're trying to cover themselves. Nice try though. So you see, you can catch them right away. So for some of us who have that gift, that are able to catch the spiritualist, who is very, very interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Very good illusion though. It's not bad, but you can do better. Anyway, so yeah, so we have the free spell. Like, this is, I'm glad that people are mentioning this, because I've been feeling this energy for a while. So a lot of you, we know that most pro-Palestinians, and I say pro-humanity at this point, because it's not just Palestinians. There's Congo, there's Sudan going through a lot of atrocities, okay? And there's the Congo, there is Haiti, there is Tigray, there is Yemen also being bombed, because they are there. You know, they have shown so much courage. I swear. In Spain right now, yo. But also they know they gotta pay some karmic debt. And you see, that's how you pay it. You have to pay your karmic debt. You see how Spain is doing it? That's how you do it. You block the weapons of the fucking demonic motherfuckers. You make them lose money. You make their massacres and ritual not work. Did you get why you get to pay your karmic debt? By not. Right? So this is I feel like this King of Wands with Temperance is someone very patient, very, very loving, very, yeah. But the Temperance energy is like, a lot of you have this masculine energy of like very alchemy energy. Like, this is, Temperance is like earth angel kind of thing. Like, a lot of you are health workers. So I'm speaking to a lot of health workers, or for some of y'all. But I do have a lot in my link in my bio, in my Instagram, and also in my link in the description below. Okay, there is doctors in Gaza that still need resources and need our help. Okay, please, if you're able to. Okay, there is moms also. There's all kinds of families that still, it's very expensive to access food there, especially with the man-made famine. It's a form of punishment, starvation to the Palestinian in Gaza, and also in the West Bank is going through a lot of stuff in the north, okay? The north is being trying to wiped out, but even though there's people in the north of Gaza, do not believe that fucking bullshit that everybody's gone. There's still people there, okay? Please. They're hungry though, fuck. Like, we need to get it together, okay? There's mutual aid that you can access to. I'm gonna try to find links and stuff, but if not, I will post it on my Instagram or TikTok or whatever, okay? I'm gonna try to find it, but there is mutual aid. There is people already on the ground that you can donate, and they can go and buy food in the fucking concentration Holocaust fucking camp, okay? Yes, please help out, okay? And yes, this is literally people that billionaires are sitting down watching content or stalking people or telling people to do this or do fake propaganda over there. It would be funny, right? The Amsterdam fucking fail fucking idea, didn't it? I tap into that energy. I was laughing my ass off. It failed. It was one of the billionaires' idea. You know, they all know each other, right? It failed. They cannot believe that they could not stop. Yeah. Yes. You guys are still gonna get your wish fulfillment. The Ten of Cups, like the entire global is going to get everything back. This is the energy. This is the energy the practitioner keeps reading to them, and they get fucking pissed off. And yeah, I mean, it's not funny because yeah, there's a lot of people that they kill for this, for the demon magic, because it runs off. This thing runs off for them. This is what they have to constantly be doing. But they were warned that the G side will be the ultimate death for them, right? That is, but they are obsessed with power and greed, and they wanted it, right? They want to stay on top. They want to stay successful. They want to maintain capitalism. They want to maintain this inequality. They want to maintain killing people. And now this crazy idea that they're putting in the minds of these practitioners to put on indigenous and brown black communities that they're going to be murdered, right? That you are trying to wipe out all the brown folks, indigenous and people like that, right? Yeah, that dream I've been having since I'm 7. Yeah. So it's not. That's the confirmation. It's not. The Ten of Cups, this is something that they have gained for family, for emotional fulfillment, stability for some of you. Not giving any, I'm not enabling or anything like that, but these are people who are also oppressed just like you. They're being used or blackmail and stuff like that. Like there's some ties that they have to fulfill for these people. And if they don't, they get fired, killed, or whatever. So that's what's going on. Yeah, that's it. Most of these people are okay with the money that they get. Even if it's like they're guilty as fuck, they're in their head. Yeah, but that's it. Justice is gonna be sweet. It's gonna taste like sweet like honey, right? Nuts. Yeah, they don't want to hear this. Yeah, they don't want to hear that everything that they have done is blocked, is gonna be blocked. 7 of Wands, and this energy of 4 of Swords is gonna be ending. This blocking, this boundary, this resistance. Like, yeah, they're trying to stop the resistance, right? Because it is justice, right? They don't want the resistance to get the justice to get this. This is why they're upset. They're upset that people do not love them and give freely as they do to the Palestinian and everybody else. You're jealous of people going through genocide because they get humanitarian aid and you don't. You guys are selfish as fuck. These people are selfish. They're so selfish. And then trying to keep people, thank you, Spirit. So the freeze and the black south power is for this. The 8 of Swords, to keep you in your mind, to keep you stuck, to keep you, but you literally, these are swords, right? Let's think, okay? You in a situation like this, and this is what's happening in chat, and yes, this is very triggering as fuck, right? But we have to look at our triggers. Why is it triggering? Why is it teaching us? Tarot helps with a little bit, but a lot of us, we need to ask God that question, okay? 8 of Swords is all about the mind. Mind control, mind manipulation, media propaganda, right there. That's it, to keep you guys stuck and freeze and not to heal and not to work on yourself. This is their biggest thing. They're soul tying everyone through all the shit that they're doing. A lot of us, we need to do that cleansing, that shower, put oil in our chakras to protect ourselves. Like, they are siphoning energy. This is how they do it. And also there's some type of mind things that they do. So this genocide, it brings a lot of dark energy. So they are using it in the dark. I'm pretending that they don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm crazy, but it is used by, and there's a coven. It's like a coven, it's a ritual. These people do ritual stuff. Like, just like the spirituality, there's the churches and all the good energy and stuff like that. They also have these disgusting, sneaky, lying, doing stuff behind people's back. constantly planning to steal lands, to steal everything from people. This is generational wealth that they steal. They plan to steal. They already stole it. They plan to steal. Manifestations. What the fuck? These people are so weird. Yeah, forward movement. Like people, like that's what they're trying to block as well. Yeah, but justice car is here, is going to be balanced. They know it. This is why the vibe is clear. You need to incorporate a regular habit of using protection herbs. I cannot make this up. I just said that. Sage, Palo Santo, or any, you can put some incense and stuff like that. Do not use the white sage, okay? That is for indigenous community. Do not disrespect them like that, okay? That is not, that's for smudging and stuff, okay? Don't do that, they colonize us. That's horrible, okay? Don't do that. But there's other sage that you can use, all right? But not the white. All right, to cleanse and clear negative energy from your surroundings on a weekly basis. A lot of you, you are weekly, you are daily. Some of you are weekly, daily, okay? Like, these people are at it. Like, a lot of you, you have this and you had the 10 of Pentacles before. Like, my goodness, yeah. They want you to put to rest your protection. So a lot of you, you have a high intense protection and they want to put it to rest, or they want to bring it down, you know. I don't know. A lot of you use self-defense. Go take some self-defense courses. Learn how to fight and stuff. Learn how to defend yourself. Fuck this. You understand? Yeah? Okay. Good. All right. 7 of Wands. Yeah. Protect yourself. Don't be naive. Like a lot of you, 777 is a lot of protection, right? A lot of like warnings. What else, Father God? So the vibe, that's it. The vibe is clearing. I don't want to make this too long, but it's obviously making it too long. Yeah, it's keep coming out, this 7 of Swords. They're doing it in a sneaky way, the demonic energy. They're doing it in the background. Yeah, I already told you guys. This is why you have to learn how to protect yourself. They are counting on you guys not learning the protection ways to do, but you should. Like, it's beautiful. Prayer, yes. Prayer, I'm telling you, this is why people, Muslim and stuff like that, they got that protection on point, okay? Yeah. So, and I'm not saying it's like, you know, like Christian or whatever. It's just like, have God on your side. Be on the right side of history, okay? That's what I mean. Decolonize, do the work, okay? That's a vibe clearing. Don't do sneaky shit and think that you're not gonna get caught. You will. These institutions or anything, they're gonna, yeah, there is this justice energy. That's a fucking yes, okay? King of Swords energy, truth coming in. Very cutthroat, I would say. Yeah, it feels like it hurts, but yeah, the truth hurts. 10 of Pentacles again. Yes, that belongs to you. The world, the wealth. Wow. That's fucked up coming out from a reading, you know? Like, since childhood, a lot of you is ancestors, right? Yeah, but they want you guys to like give up, walk away, make it hard for you so that you don't fight for, yeah, for what's yours. But a lot of you, yeah, use your intuition. A lot of you use your intuition and yes, you have to speak the truth. You want the truth to be given to you and live in integrity and honesty and loyalty and stuff like that. You need to live in that. You need to live in those words. That's what authenticity means, is that you respect the energy of what those words mean. Values and morals, right? Kindness and empathy, compassion, forgiveness, right? A lot of you, Father God wants you to forgive, but do not forget the lessons. And when you also have to ask him, can I go back into a relationship or friendship or whatever, or family or whatever, or not? Sometimes he will, just to test you, to see how long, you know, you crack, you'll be pretending. Because some people, he hasn't healed them yet. So when you go and, you know, you get hurt and then He told you, hey, they're not ready yet. Or I told you not to open the door anymore, right? Listen to your intuition. Listen to your discernment. Learn to nurture your discernment, which is your intuition. Okay? Intuition is God. Empress energy, divine feminine energy. Yeah, Two of Pentacles. Yeah, I bet like a lot of you, there's this energy of single energy and like not longer juggling, right? Not longer going everywhere back and forth. Like that's what they wanted you guys to be. For a lot of you who have done the healing, it no longer affects you that much, right? But it does sometimes, but it barely anymore. But for a lot of you who's just starting this journey, you're gonna have a lot of hateful, envious, jealous people in the background. So yeah, we not only have those people like in the background, you know, jealous and envious, whatever it is that you want to do, and a lot of you, I hope you are doing that. I hope you're focusing on doing that, because they are heavily don't want you to. Especially a lot of you who are meant to have this wealth, who are meant to, like, even like I'm thinking about all those people that have lost so much money on, you know, on TikTok, other pages and stuff like that, where they have put their work and, you know, the whole company taking percentage off. And then that energy also is felt where it goes to them. It always goes to them. Yeah. It's not proportionally or sustainable, and it's not proportionally distributed to everybody, to the people that it needs to go to. Okay. So there's a lot of stealing and siphoning energy of money, of independence, of a lot of you are self-taught, self-made. You're supposed to be. Okay. So that a lot of you, if you're using that energy to go above and do that and walk away from what no longer serve you, okay? A lot of you, a lot of people are walking away from a lot of shit that no longer serve them. Glory be to God. That's good. Yeah, so a lot of you see through the BS, and that's okay. That's part of it. Make sure that you're drinking your waters, that you are taking care of yourself, you're cleaning, okay? Clean, you know, do your dishes and work on yourself, okay? And then go back and give to other people and stuff like that. But first use, because I'm not encouraging individualism, but if you're, you know, need that alone time, that's okay. But remember that you have collective people, and it's good to be in community, okay? So I encourage others of you that to seek your friends, to seek other people, and tell them when you're going through something and need help, yeah? Okay? Yeah, especially where there's this death spell, this there's a lot of transformation. Yeah, so a lot of you are going through that global ego death. Global ego death. So basically you're moving from rough water to calmer water. So a lot of you, a lot of endings, a lot of things, you know, especially if you try to work with other people and that really didn't work. But I see like there's four, right? 4 pentacles here instead of like, yes, you have the 3 and the 1 pentacle. But usually the page is a page, right? It's someone who is just starting from scratch, okay? So a lot of you give yourself grace, give yourself some love during that time. Still with the 4 here, which is the 4 of Pentacles, still holding on to the past, it's not going to help you move forward. Just letting you guys know, okay? And it's spirits letting you guys know as well. There's something that it needs to be released, okay? In order for this transformation to like really come in. This one is keeps moving. Live out loud. Exactly. Exactly. Don't forget to have your joy and your laughter, okay? 31 could be significant, okay? Jasiji, okay? But yeah, there's ancestors energy, a lot of y'all, but a lot of you is like there's this understanding of like ending childish ways as well, but never killing your childhood energy, your childhood soul, okay? Because that's beautiful. That's, you know, and that's another thing where I don't understand why we're still in an energy of having a genocide that is killing children, like massive children, like 70%, like 44% is just children that got murdered last year. And we're still saying we can't wait to have the hostages back. I can't wait to have the hostages of Palestinians and they're back into their land. But people that come to me and say, I can't wait for the Israeli hostages to be back. Be back where? Where are they going to go back? To go back to their military and go back to killing the people that has kept them alive for the past months? Do you know how fucked up that can get a person? Like mentally, psychologically? And do you know that it's even more psychologically fucked up that they know that their own people that they have fucking been programmed and conditioned to kill Palestinians are being protected by the people that they got conditioned and programmed to kill? Do you know how fucked up that is? And then go back and like understand why you will never support these people again, but then being like either threatened or all kinds of things done to you, or threatened to go to prison because you don't want to be killing children and mothers and men in a other country because they want to take the land, because they want their condos and they want their beaches and they want their, because what they want to steal lands and homes from people because they hate them. Because let's be clear, it's not like it's obvious, right? So and like anti-Arab, it's Islamophobia honestly is it's sad and pathetic, to be honest, but that's it. It comes from racism, it comes from white supremacy, and it comes from colonizers. And the more and more we're not addressing that, the more and more we're going to continue like this when it doesn't have to be. Like a lot of you continue planting the seeds, okay? Because it's giving strength not only for yourself, but, and that too is like these movements have been for a very long time. So our job is to really be aware and educate others and try to change things, because like, hermit, Sphere said heal, yes. A lot of you heal with the right, so that way you can have the right people, the right partnership, the right compassion, the right, like, having sovereignty and being emotionally stable and intelligent. Okay, Queen of Cups, someone very intuitive and psychic, right? Which most of you are. But the Star and the Hermit, it sounds like it's like go within so that you can see that a lot of you are the star, you are the mirror energy, the lovers that you love, like, it starts from within yourself, so that way you can emit it to other people. That's why a lot of people say like misery loves company. This is why this person is being attacked, because she's so loving. Someone did a rejection spell. There's rejection spell here. Yeah. Some of you is twin flame. So that's another thing. They can stand the twin flame energy, especially because it does heal the collective. Those who are doing it the proper way. There is a lot of inconsistency of, the twin energy or the success and redemption. Okay. Yeah. So a lot of you have a lot of abandonment issues, a lot of hurt, a lot of disappointment, a lot of rejections, of course, but unhealed trauma, right? So this is what they benefit from. Like, I don't know how they get it financially, obviously some weird ass stuff that I don't even want to tap into, but definitely has to deal with this. They harness energy from this. And the other one, right? Which is still hidden. It's funny that it hasn't come out, the devil, right? Because he's in all the details. And then they call us demonic and diabolical when we catch them doing the fucked up shit that they're doing, right? So I'm getting the sense where once they arrive, the energy, what I'm getting is that they automatically get in their bank accounts in, I don't know, any part of the world that they get it. It is hidden and kind of like, that's what's called dark money, but in tarot it's easy to find. those who have the energy to do so. Exactly. So they use, yeah. They call it the fountain of youth, or the youth cup, or something like that. So you know how we have the chalice, right? Like in the Christian or whatever, we have the chalice and blah, blah, blah. They also have a chalice. And it's not for what you think it is. And I'm going to leave it like that because I can't go any details with that. There's the Ace of Wands, so they have to burn something. They have to do something. Five of Swords is betrayal, is it's like an initiation for them, like they have to initiate or something like that. Others of you, there is a partnership or something that is meant for you that a lot of people are jealous and envious, or they're going to be, because once whoever this is wants to come towards you, is going to see that other energy keeps coming up. Yeah, this other energy wants to overcome. They overcame these fears. They went through a healing journey. They're constantly thinking of partnership, but also they're in this regret energy of walking away, or they feel like it is their karma if you walk away or something like that. Like some of you, this person ghosted you, abandoned you, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know why it's popping up, but this person always energy comes up because their regret is so great. Their despair, I'm hearing, like, is so intense because they cannot believe that they walk away from you. Like, this is someone who is like this, like really like I don't know, I feel like they're going through some type of karma because maybe they did you dirty, or they slander you or something like that. Or a lot of you, this is the energy. Okay, let's go back because I can't go back. This person always does this. I'm seeing the yeah, okay. Because they're manifesting. All those of you, they're manifesting success, prosperity, and stuff like that through what? Through your energy. Chariot. Yes, a lot of you are very stable, very loving. Okay, a lot of you, yeah, it keeps coming up. This person wants to shift the reading, which means for me, I'm done here. I think I showed you enough. Hopefully that helps. I do have other message to tap into, but for now, yeah. Like this person manifesting someone here, it always switches to love, okay? Because that's my energy, okay? I love, okay? And I hope that this helped you. Please help those in need right now, okay? We need to continue speaking up, okay? End embargo. We have to continue free Palestine, free Congo. We have to continue educating ourselves, okay? Because, yeah, they're counting on all of y'all like being stupid and dumb and acting stupid. Because they're fucking dumb and stupid. Do you get it? It's projection. The same thing with the energy of like I'm still kind of like annoyed with the whole like book, which is a fucking racist book, okay? It's a terrorist book. They're the terror. He is the terrorist. Not keeping us safe, having hooligans and having like weird ass energy here, hooligans or any other thing, anywhere. They have the audacity and this psychotic energy to speak like that because they have money. That's it. That's about it. Bunch of fucking losers. Trying to slow down people who have strength, resilience that they will never fucking have. Love you. See you next time.